Delightful. Welcome, welcome. I know it's been a long time for some of you, longer than others, but we are back at full strength. Conference season is all but over. So now we can get back to work with a new project. So in this particular project, as you see, if you had the chance to read the project page, you'll see the idea, but I want to cover it here just in the event you haven't. But you know, there are many top-level ontologies. I don't know if you've heard. We talk a lot about BFO, but there are others. So the things like Basic Formal Ontology, of course, but also the descriptive ontology for linguistics and cognitive engineering. There's also Tupper. There are a whole bunch of others that may or may not align with 218381, the ISO standard for top-level ontologies. And these are different perspectives on ontology modeling. They take different make different methodological choices. They have different categories, different relationships among them. Some are more similar to others than others. So DOLCE is not too dissimilar from BFO. Tupper is quite dissimilar from everything. And that's okay. I think that's okay. So even though we spend a lot of time talking about BFO and we train in BFO, and you know why I do that and why we do that here, and you know why we'll continue to do that. I think it's important to be able to switch between these different perspectives and different structures. And more importantly, it's important to be able to automate that. And the only way we're going to automate that is because machines are dumb, spelling out the details in a fine-grained manner. That requires understanding these other structures to the extent that we need so that we can implement them in machine interpretable ways. So I'm also a fan of gamification. I'm a fan of learning things through playing games. I like to make learning fun, or else I like to have a good time. So I was very excited when I went to Force and I met Max Willis and Greta Adamo, who were playing a game. They were playing it with, I believe, UFO, GFO. They were playing it with this general formal ontology, a game designed to help you understand the conceptual structure of that upper level ontology. I was very excited, and I talked with them and I said, "Hey, do you have a BFO version?" And they were like, "Not yet, but we will." And within a few weeks, lo and behold, they put together a BFO version, and we made a plan, a plot, if you will, to play test it in a class of my choosing, this being the class of my choosing. So what I would like to do today is to play their game, give them feedback, understand. Now, in this case, we'll be talking about BFO, because I want you to start with something you know, right? You understand BFO. I want you to learn how to play the game using something you know. And then later, we'll play it with other upper level ontologies. So once you have the rules down, you'll be able to understand how to transpose those into other upper level ontologies, and you'll learn to play the game with other. Okay? So today, we'll be engaging in a play test around BFO. Now, I want you to keep some other things in mind. And this is right along with their recommendations. Be critical. This is a game in the works, right? So Regina and I were already looking at some of the rules in these wildcards, which I'll talk about in a second, or Regina will talk about in a second. And I was like, nope, that's a bad one. We'll change it. Keep that in mind. And what we're gaming for is less about upper level ontology modeling and more about just good rules of gamification. You don't want the game to be too hard. You don't want the game to be too easy. You want to be able to keep people motivated while maximizing their learning. So just keep that in mind. And feel free to chime in and I suspect, and I think Regina will agree with me. Regina's already played this game, by the way, with her class. Federico's already played this game too. I've not played this game, but I suspect, just looking at this and talking, we're going to, not without too much time, get into a situation where we will want to make the game a little harder. We should do that, and we should take that opportunity. I'll give you an example of how this comes up in my personal life. I like to play Uno with my wife. We play Uno not infrequently, but we play Uno for so long that we get bored with the rules, and so we come up with new rules while we're playing. It makes it a lot harder and a lot more interesting. And then we forget which rules we're adopting. It's great. It's just a lot of fun. But I encourage you If it's too easy, make it harder. Come up with a rule. And we'll record this information. We'll send it back to Greta and Max. We're going to record the session 2 so they can see. You'll sign consent forms if you are so inclined. And if you are not so inclined to have this information shared with them, don't sign it. Say no, we'll sort that out. That's fine, that's fine. I was already gonna, we got note cards over here to supplement.
Oh,
So if you want to come up with a rule that's not represented in the deck, we'll write it down and insert it.
or entities, I believe.
Or
Unless you
entities,
wanna-
yeah, no, that's good. Okay, so this will be a bit of a creative session. Now we have folks online who will be participating as well, and because it doesn't matter so much what you, if your opponents can see the cards, or at least it's not clear to me that it does. I will be showing them the cards, and they will be making choices, and I will act as their proxy, so they can participate as well. Before I start, or before I actually hand this over to Regina, and I have the rules here. Yes, it's like guideposts. Regina will walk you through how the game works on a base, like the base game works. Before I get there, are there any questions, comments, concerns, compliments?
This is very cool.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
Well, no, the whole thing.
Right on, Max. Already, it's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a relatively simple game here, so I'm gonna just say, for ease, these are relatively shuffled, right? You were just.
Mm,
Oh, no, they're
mm,
not. You did that.
I shuffled them.
Okay, then I'm just gonna say, it's gonna be easiest instead of trying to deal, just you take 7 of your own cards. 7 cards, and the game is pretty simple, so it's just about building a model based on BFO. So in the deck, you'll see like a number of BFO terms. You'll also see certain images. So those are supposed to be instances of various BFO terms. Or there's going to be also just non-BFO terms like cat and dog, perhaps. And so essentially the idea of the game is to try, the motivation or the goal of the game is to get rid of all of your cards before everybody else. So that's the competitive aspect of it. There's also a cooperative aspect of it, which is just that we're collectively building one single model. And so, I mean, essentially, it's kind of cooperative and competitive in those respects. The way like the logistics work is that, you know, suppose you have the word continuant down in your hand, right? You'll just put continuant down, right? There's not much above it. And then thereafter, you're going to try to put as many cards as you possibly can under the term continuant. Now, suppose it's your turn after that. Someone's already put continuant and let's say material object or material entity, and you have the word object. You can therefore add to the model, put object down. Maybe you have the word cat. You can put cat under, let's say, object. Let's say you have an image of, I don't know, Lisa the cat or whatever it is. You could put the image of Lisa or whatever it is next to cat. There's no, as far as I'm understanding, there's no orientation that is like necessary. So you can kind of put them like to the side of or above the cards that are already laid out on the model. I think that's a little bit
too much.
Yeah, confusing. So maybe like collectively we can come up with a little bit better of like, you know, where exactly to place these terms. I mean, ideally, right? Maybe we can pass these around as well. Yeah. Ideally, we'll follow like the BFO order when it comes to those terms and like.
Or not.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
See where it
So
goes.
yeah,
Great.
we'll see kind of how.
So
how it
when we
works out.
find BFO terms, we have to like model them accordingly to BFO. But when we have dog,
Yeah.
we can put it even in processes because you could argue that a dog is a process.
So
Yeah.
so whenever you lay down a term, you have to sort of justify the placement of that term. So if you come up with dog and you want to put it under the term process, you're gonna have to create some sort of definition that would, you know, establish rightfully so that was you know, the proper placement of the term dog. I think that's kind of the basics of the game. There's like you'll see throughout, as John just mentioned, there's these wild cards that have you know, various instructions, so you can choose to skip a turn for some reason. I wouldn't suggest doing that, given that you're going to try to get rid of your cards as much as possible, and you have to use your turn to get rid of your cards. There's others where if you feel like the terms you have are somehow really challenging to put down in the model that we currently have, if you're lucky enough to draw the I deserve better card, you can swap your cards out for, you know, some in the deck.
Voting mechanisms, so if I put something on the table,
Yeah.
it will be accepted or someone has to vote?
I don't actually think there's a voting element here, but that would be a good one. Like, I mean, it would be in some ways, I think, more analogous to like the actual modeling. Yeah, the actual modeling practice where you have to justify and like people have to agree, collectively agree that that was the right placement.
Good
something
idea.
like that.
In fact, we should operate that way. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's gonna be two people getting red in the face, yelling at each other.
Okay, do we want to do a simple majority or do we want to do?
Yeah, Federico's pulling from problem from past place.
How about a simple
Yeah,
majority?
simple majority.
Simple majority.
Okay,
Mhm.
for each term? Or perhaps, how about something like this? So we don't have to, you know, vote out, do we put, you know, material entity under continuant, right? We don't have to vote every time. How about someone can come up forward with an objection, and every time someone comes forward with an objection, it then triggers the like voting.
That's actually what we did.
Okay, great,
Good.
good.
Like it.
So write this down.
Yeah. sure.
Or, well, they'll watch it, they'll watch it. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of the mechanics of the game. You have 7 cards, you try to lay them down as many as possible each turn. And then once it becomes your turn again, I think you are supposed to pick up an additional card. So that, you know, you're replenishing 1 card every time it becomes your turn. So that, I think, you know, extends the game, right? I guess any questions before we start?
So when we put down the cards, so when someone put down, let's say, material entity,
Yeah.
then can I like, put down objects?
Yeah, I don't think I mean, this is an ambiguity, right? Like, I think, what do we all think? It seems to me like you can have gaps, like you can put object under, you know, you don't need to have material entity under, in between a continuant and object in order to put object.
And you can insert.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
our hierarchy's not fixed, right?
What I'm asking is then, are we having like one structure or are we each have like separate?
There's gonna be one model,
big thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, not like our own individual model.
I see.
We should think, I'm gonna keep in mind, maybe as we're playing, having rival structure. And seeing like there being a twist later, we have to merge it. The whole time.
It would be the
And then, we can do that later, we can mix like DOLCE or
It'd be the
Boro
extent-
or something.
we're already thinking about expansions for the.
I know, I'm already thinking about expansion, but I think like, so Max and Greta and I talked a little bit about this, this is kind of the way we're thinking. Like, kind of this dual hierarchy, and then the relationships would be an interesting way to think of it. So can I walk through just in a procedural way, the rules?
Like that, for like the work through or the walk through the game, just one time. So as you can see here, I tried to summarize what I read in the rules, because I found the way that was described like less transparent than I would have wanted as somebody who plays a lot of games. So I tried to summarize it. So each player will be dealt 7 cards. Hopefully that is what just happened. You have 7 cards, no more. If there are cards remaining after the distribution, we just lay them face down right here. Draw the top card from the face down pile and we lay it down face up. This will be our start. And what does that say? If it's a wild card, then place the wild card back in the deck. So this is not a wild card, it's a little sad dog. So this will be the start of our model.
Or painting.
Or painting, yeah. The start of our model. And so, so a random player is selected to go first, and we'll proceed clockwise. When it is a player's turn, they draw 1 card from the deck. The player then may add an quote unquote ontologically correct card to the face-up card on the table. And then they will describe the growing ontology of the structure as they do it. So like Kaido is an instance of material entity, which is an independent continuous. So you basically read off the structure that you're constructing. When it's the player's turn, when it's the player's turn, they may place any card they believe is ontologically correct. When it's the player's turn, they may choose to end their turn. I'm just like listing off the things you can do. And any player can dispute the placement of the card. So if you place a card and somebody thinks, nah, man, that's not right, they can argue. And if the player of the card cannot defend their placement, they must remove the card and lose their turn. If they're able to defend it, they can continue. Of course, we added this in here as a block we don't want you to argue forever. And so at some point, we'll just make this as a judgment call for now. Once you've laid out the positions, the defense and offense, we'll stop. We'll take a vote. And whoever wins wins. Then the name of the game, the first player to place all of their cards wins. So if you get rid of your hand, you've won the game.
Do we have to say Uno when we have one?
You have to say Uno.
So it's like Go Fish.
It's kind of like that, except you're defending your positions. I will say, I'm going to go ahead and make some executive decisions right now on 2 of the wild cards. So one of these is skip a turn, which is it says do not draw a card or play any cards. So I get the value of not drawing a card. That's good. But I think we can make this more interesting. So instead of skip a turn, for you, this wild card will be you have somebody else skip their turn. I suspect some people are going to be better at arguing for their positions than others. It would be a strategic card to avoid Giacomo from playing or Chris from playing.
I'm really good at this. I haven't noticed this. What's this BFO?
There's also this drama dog card, this wild card which says choose a player and give them any cards you don't want, but you must keep at least 2 cards in your hand. I think this is too strong.
No. I think we should leave it in.
Oh, hold on. I think you should swap cards.
No, I think we should leave it in.
Well, that'll like in the game. Like if I can just give up all of my cards, I can give you
Apart from
5
two.
cards and
Oh,
set
no,
up 2.
I think we should.
I want to change this to
No.
drama
First round.
swap.
For the first round.
Oh, I can already tell.
First round.
Chris is see. Go ahead and
I'm
skip this
competitive.
turn.
I'm competitive.
This is going to be called drama swap instead of drama dump. You gotta watch out. So in
No,
what
I don't like
you
it.
just
Really
you can
don't.
swap any number of cards
But for the same number
for
of
the
cards.
same number of cards.
But you swap
With
with
one
one
other
or you
person.
swap with one, and they choose and you choose.
So you get to choose which cards.
From so you see their cards
You
and
see their
choose.
cards and you swap.
That's a good rule.
I wonder if we should have some sort of like motivation for raising good objections.
Mhm.
And so, right, someone puts down something on the model that you disagree with. You could say, I object to that. And let's say if it's a success, like collectively, right, if we vote to like change it in the way that you suggested, or just change it as you suggested, maybe you can get like dump one of your cards. But if we end up keeping what was proposed, you have to take one more card from the deck. Something just to motivate. What do you think?
Hmm. That's an interesting.
So here was my thought.
Yeah.
It's good to get collective agreement,
Yeah.
right? And it's not good to have bad models.
Yep.
So it's good to, object when
Mhm.
we see something bad,
Mhm.
but only if it like kind of is gonna be something that we collectively then agree on and not just objecting for the hell of it.
Yeah, I got, so. Hmm.
And so if you're just objecting for the hell of it and then we don't vote to like change it as you suggest,
Mhm, mhm.
you are penalized.
Yeah, so like, maybe the penalization should be everybody who loses the vote has to go.
Oh, I was just thinking of the agent who suggested we have.
I don't know, everybody who votes, who loses has to draw.
So then you make.
But then we have a
responsibility.
problem of like, who's gonna vote, right? Cause we can see each other.
The only thing is
States.
it encourages tactical voting, would be
Yeah.
my thing. So
Yeah.
even though it's true,
I like it.
and you don't like someone, you look around the table and you go.
But then I'm thinking,
"Yeah, I think so."
it's like we don't have
Don't you
private
think?
voting though, because
That's right. I'm okay.
you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Well, then why don't you just abstain and just wait to see what the
Can't
majority
abstain.
is? No, like what the majority is, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we be the last person to
You
vote.
always want to be on the majority, don't you?
Yeah.
That's
Just
right.
depends on the.
All right, you'll all
Okay,
close
so
your
can I
eyes.
suggest something? No,
and
can I
vote.
suggest something else? Is that you're allowed to change your vote. You give your first vote and you have to stick with the vote. No, it might take a bit
No,
longer,
yeah.
but then people know what's
But
going on.
then whoever knows,
I tell you what, let's hash this out as we play, but this is good.
But I suppose then you're right, then everyone will go with the majority when there is a majority.
exactly.
So we'll try that. We'll play one run through and see how this goes, but this is good to keep in mind. So gentlemen, I have some decks here for you as well,
No,
so I will show you. I'll end up showing you. Oh, we've got another people. We got Obi here too, so I'll draw 7 more.
These are for under eye. Alteration.
It's unfortunate that.
With the way coded,
We should have a smaller table.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
let's see. Random selection. Robert, go for it. Robert will kick us off.
Go first.
You go first.
Okay, so this is an instance of a dog.
think
I
it
don't
could be a
know,
little
is it?
bit, Yeah.
Be a painting.
Defend yourself. Or just
Okay.
like build
Wow.
structure.
It is an instance of a material entity. And I'm gonna leave a gap here because things can go in between.
Okay.
Well, you can lay out as many as you want,
You can name more than
Yeah,
one card down.
Try to put as many as
as
you
long as you
can.
can defend it.
No.
Yeah, we'll play the right way. We'll play the original. The intent.
If you got 2 cards the same, can you put them down?
I don't know what I was forgetting.
Yeah.
I think
You
we
right?
played it.
Good.
I mean, I have no idea what a material entity is.
Oh, well, Robert's gonna, are you done?
Let's go.
Are we going this way? or
Yeah,
that way?
I'm done. I'm not
Done?
confident in the second move.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay. A material entity is just,
I can look it up here.
independent continuant, so the thing that bears properties,
Okay,
qualities, that
so
has
then-
matter.
okay, so right, so I reckon I can do this, yeah? No, that's right, 2
Continuant, 2
continuants.
continuants.
Whoa.
Whoa.
And then if I can I put stuff under a continuant?
Yeah.
So in other words, now I've got this here, I can go down.
Mhm,
I suspect that's continuant, that is probably a continuant,
mhm.
okay? And I wonder, actually, this is good, maybe I should just do all my cards now. It's a house cat, I think a house cat is probably material entity, I'm guessing, I'm hoping.
I don't know, what do you guys think?
The dog is, the cat is. Is a house cat special?
That's not a dog.
Yeah.
That's a picture of a dog.
Oh, you should have objected to Robin.
And picture is still a material entity.
Right, it just asserted that it's a material entity.
You just connected it to.
Okay,
But a house cat's a
I
material
think
entity. I'm saying.
you're
that-
proposing
Yeah,
a
yeah,
sibling.
Yeah.
You're proposed, like, I mean,
But
I'm
you're
not saying it's a dog.
sorry, you're not saying the
you're saying
dog
it's a sibling
is
or
a type of
class?
house cat.
No, I'm saying a house cat, I'm trying to understand how it works, a house cat's a material entity, is that right or not?
I think house cats.
But is that how I
That's
meant to play?
fair.
I don't
Well,
understand how to play.
yes.
Well, you
So,
guys argue.
whenever you have an image, a colored image, you have an individual, and the white cards are for classes.
Oh, this is the classic all out.
By the
Yes,
way-
this is up here, so there's a class
Okay.
of house cats, which are material entities.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's right, I mean, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And then I've got, okay, so this, if I get one wrong, I lose everything, is that right or not?
It depends. I might have to draw.
We vote.
I have absolutely no idea what this is.
Okay.
I mean, literally, so
Okay.
for discussion, I'm gonna claim
No, it's
that
not.
a relic is a material entity, but I have no idea whether that's true or not.
Interesting.
And then I want to drama dump. Because I really hate drama.
And so you win, is that kind of not as far as?
Yeah, well, I always gotta swap. Yeah,
Oh,
win with a drama,
swap.
it's a drama.
No, I could have dumped all these cards, which are really good cards. I'd have given them to you because I like you.
Well, so nobody want to object? Is
The relics.
But is this right? Is this a material entity? I mean, the relic's
Yeah.
there any other way to understand relic?
yeah, but it seems to me a relic is probably a way, is a role or something.
And
Yeah?
I assume it will have a relic role, right? So before the church says that this
Yeah,
is
that's what I said.
certified,
That's
you
what I
know,
said. Yeah, that's what I.
blood of some saint or something,
Yeah.
this is not a relic
Yeah,
yet.
until, yeah, so that would, but it's, yeah, but if what's a role? A role is something else, is it?
Well, it wouldn't be a material entity.
Okay.
But say like, making a object or relic is different from relics and relics themselves, right? Relics are, all relics are object material entities, right? There is no.
Well, are they all?
But
Yeah,
roles are
probably.
material entities.
Let's define
Yeah.
relic. I mean, we're using a conventional definition. Something that's
And it's not the
Old
same thing,
fashioned.
you're Italian, you can have a relic from Greek civilization, I mean, the same. It's your
Oh, a
common
relic in
supply.
the sense, something which I found from an ancient civilization, it's not a religious relic.
I mean, a religious relic is a kind of relic, but I think it's
Right,
wider.
right.
But I think your argument still holds, but I'm mocking you for being Italian.
Draw a card.
Are you allowed to do that?
So in case we don't find a solution and we don't play a card, we have to draw a card. Do we also?
What sounds like.
Well, I think you draw every
Yeah, I
time
don't know
it's
if
your turn.
Robert.
But maybe you.
Oh, yeah,
you
you guys have to draw a
twice.
card.
No,
Oh, if you
Yeah.
can't play anything?
Mhm.
Oh.
No,
But
like
I
the
did play a card.
first thing you do is draw a card.
But no, I shouldn't look at this
Okay.
card, should I?
Oh, you can, I mean,
But no, because.
yeah.
the first
No,
thing,
no, no, no,
you should have drawn it.
I guess.
Oh, because
it
I
wouldn't-
finished my turn,
Well, you-
okay, yeah.
Well, no, you should have drawn it at the start of the
Yes,
turn.
it's
Really?
Yeah, that was,
Oh,
Seems to.
it's fine, but
Then why not just deal
but one
eight?
thing, so, do you agree with the objections to you placing riddle? Or will you, do you concede?
well, the only thing is I have no idea where a roll fits in here. It's probably said box, under it's a box called roll. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's over
Seems like
there,
material, that would be
okay.
better.
So I should really put roll under continuant. So I put it in the wrong, that's interesting, okay, so you can put it down and it's how you put it down that matters.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that, otherwise,
But if you-
otherwise I'd have put it under
Right.
continuant to be safe.
But if you concede, then you'll have to take relic back and then.
Okay,
return
yes,
it.
okay, yeah, I mean, to make the game work, I'm happy to take it back.
Yeah.
I had no idea what it was and I did it for fun.
Okay.
This is an interesting, question again,
Oh,
it's
wait,
like.
actually, I should play
Yeah.
Oh,
online.
So I just take it back, that is.
Okay, I'm just gonna go in.
Oh, do I have to take everything back?
Oh, no, I think you just
Did we
take.
disagree? I think we disagreed.
I disagree. I don't think all relics are material entities.
What-
They're immaterial relics.
What do you mean?
In a name that is no longer used but still recognized as once in the parlance
But
of.
that's.
Oh.
That's not.
What is the definition of
Literal,
relic?
like,
Yeah.
You guys wanna vote?
What's the definition?
This is where I feel like we need those domains to like.
If we just add the definition, we can say whether.
Let's vote.
Yeah, let's vote.
That easy.
Let's vote.
Okay.
Let's vote. How many of you
Wait,
think?
but then who's triggering the vote? Are we doing the thing?
And
where-
objects
just
are
gonna-
not
Right, everybody
earlier
close their
time.
eyes.
I'm
What-
gonna,
And
no, I'm just
objects
gonna
are
tally.
So they are material entities.
The o-
According to the
the-
dictionary. What is that?
So I'm a red.
The only consequence, the only consequence of the loss of vote is that Chris will have to remove relic from where it's currently placed. and
Just the one,
turn
not the
will move
more.
on. Huh? Just the one.
I feel better.
And then if the vote is in Chris's favor, then he can continue the turn. And so those are the consequences. We're gonna just sort of initially play the first round like this.
But when you
here.
say continue the turn, you mean they get another go to put stuff down?
Yes, yeah.
Can people double up on skip turns? Meaning like if 3 people have skip turns and they skip you 3 times, is that like?
Yeah, I'm sure that's right, that's.
If you have those
Turns,
turns, yeah.
I just mean if like 3
Sure.
people choose the same person, that
Sure.
okay.
Yeah, why not?
And then I skip 3 rounds. or
Yeah,
something.
Or
yeah,
if
yeah.
you have
What do you
the-
mean it goes?
You became a target. You become a target.
So this is because I'm so good, I'm a target. is
Yeah,
what you're
right.
telling me.
Coming up strong.
You're like Kobe. You're like Kobe over here. They gotta double up on you. Okay, so we'll do the vote. So how many
I
think
think,
that?
can I ask it?
Yeah.
If someone reads out a dictionary definition very loud before we take the votes.
Yeah.
Only-
According
only
to
if-
Webster's
Only if
dictionary.
they read 2, one for the roll and one for the
And
machine.
objects surviving from an earlier time, especially one of historical or sentimental interest. An object, custom, or belief that has survived from an earlier time, but is now outmoded.
So I was born in the 90s, I survived until now, and I'm very, like, my mother thinks I'm very, lovely.
Relic, very
So I'm a
relic.
You're
Okay.
material entity.
I'm
So
a-
we'll vote. So how many think relic is a material entity?
Do I get to vote?
Yes.
No, you cannot vote.
Why
Oh,
not?
I understand. He's our
You
team.
can vote on our team.
I
All right,
agree
hands
with-
up.
with
I don't think
Federico.
you should vote
Hands
for
up.
your own. Goal.
You might vote against yourself. Who knows? I don't want to. All right, hands up, hands up.
What's the
What-
background?
He can vote. Who thinks relic is a
Just
material
relic,
entity?
It's,
1, 2,
what is it, they think it should or it
3,
shouldn't?
4.
It is a
What do you think it
material.
is?
1, 2.
Relic is.
I say should, hold on. I say
Okay.
should-
I do not think it's a material entity.
Okay, we've got 6 in favor.
Hold on, John.
Yes.
I'm saying should not.
Okay, so should. Who thinks relic should be classified as a material entity? We've got 2 over here. 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. And do you want to vote in favor of yourself? Maybe you shouldn't, because I think we have an even number of. Who thinks it should not be?
And you're
Material
advised to
object.
vote.
Yes.
It should not.
It should not. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
It should not.
Okay. 5. So it's 5 to 6.
The
Oh,
odds
no,
are-
five-
Six?
Was it 5 to 6?
I think it's 5 to 5.
5 to 5. So we have a tie.
Oh,
What happens in the
We
game?
all lose.
Ooh.
I make the deciding.
I'll play the deciding.
Tie goes to the
We
right.
need
I'll
to
do the
domain
dis-
expert.
Yeah, I'll do the deciding factor in the interest of gameplay. I'm gonna say it's not a material entity, only because you're too good at this game.
Be lucky.
Yeah.
So I have to
But
take it
I have
back.
a feeling you'll get another, yeah, you take that one back, and then what I'll do now is I'll go. I'll start with Tim, because you're first on my list, and so I have, how do I best show you these? You have roll or whole. You have, what is it, space?
It just looks different for you. For us.
Yeah. You have
Nebula.
what does it say? Nebula.
Under material.
You have communicate. You have somebody skips a turn. Fiat point.
So what am I building off something?
Yeah, so you're building off, if you can see in this other screen here,
I can't see it.
can't really see this. Let me.
So just tell me where I am in the tree and that's fine.
Yeah, let me.
You obviously don't.
Pick one of the cats.
You don't like.
Pick one of the cats.
We were allowed to do this?
Yeah.
You can.
Well, now we are.
Don't tell anyone.
Oh, yeah, because it's wrong.
Yes, you can
Oh, it was,
really
yeah,
see
that-
that.
I know, I'm not
So.
sure there's
Just
a.
a little bit. Basically, there is the structure. You have two continuous at the top. Continuous fiat boundary and material entity, house cat, and then an instance of a dog.
So good.
I can't see it, so it's not helpful.
It's just blurry.
Yeah.
You change your screen to pin.
I don't think it'll work for Burrow, because Burrow is too simple.
What if I take a picture and just like on my phone and in the chat and like send the picture?
Yeah, maybe that'll work. Yeah, so Regina's gonna take a picture and send it in the chat. That way you can see.
Okay.
Okay, and then here, what I will do.
Tim.
Yeah.
I'll switch between the cameras. I think John is currently pinged on your screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
The ping to the other person's was
I'm gonna,
Regina's camera, and you should be able to see what he's talking about.
and I'm gonna take a picture of your cards and send them to you too, so that you can see them without having like to remember.
I can't see it.
Okay.
Well, just give me the top level. So we're off of material entity.
It's just too blurry.
The material, yeah, material entity. Can you see them?
Okay.
So
Sure.
Okay.
No, I can't see them, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Um.
Should be sending you a picture.
Yeah, one
Um,
sec.
Thank you.
All right. So then I'll place whole under object.
All right. Oh, we'll go under.
Object aggregate, excuse me.
That'll be, we don't have object aggregate on the table yet, but we do have material entity, so you could place it
So-
on material entity.
Let's
How would
do
a
that.
whole- How would a whole be a material entity?
Well, that's a
I
great,
don't know.
Alright,
A whole is the negation of things. It's like a empty space.
Well, okay, that's fair. All right, so then,
oh, the perforation.
well, then I don't have it. Can't go into there. So what was my other top?
Stand way too.
There was material entity. Anything else?
Yeah,
So you have two nebula cards.
Okay.
And
So
then
I'll put that under object aggregate. How about that?
we do have, it's material entity, at this point, although somebody could insert object
So
aggregate.
that put it under material entity.
Yeah, that'll work. We'll do material entity.
What is it? What was this thing?
Finding a nebula.
Nebula.
A nebula is a material entity. So this is Tim's client.
Oh, you just put whole under material entity.
So Tim.
No, we've rescinded whole.
Oh.
As a
Yeah, he's
material
not doing
entity,
whole.
I think you may have some objections to whole being a material entity, shall we?
No, no,
We
no,
already
no,
did.
we already
We
suggested it.
rescinded that.
So-
We rescinded that.
Oh, you rescinded that. Oh, okay, so
That's
Tim,
right. We moved on to whatever it was, Nebula.
so did you concede that, did you get out?
No, I misspoke.
Okay.
Sure.
So, I will
I'm
give-
trying to fly by my seat of my pants, brother. You
We'll
know?
give some grace. This is it's a little complicated for the remote participants. We'll give some grace. Okay, so we got Nebula under material entity.
Yep.
We good with that? Anybody want to object? All right, moving on. What's next? You still have whole. You also have space, fiat point, communicate, and then you can make somebody skip a turn.
Oh, he keeps going?
Yeah, he keeps going until he, wants to give like the seat his turn or is out argued about a placement.
Did we agree on whole?
But I'm only working off material entity. What I need to do is figure out, can I just throw something out there?
You could, yeah, you could, just place something outside the scope of material entity. You know what the BFO hierarchy looks like. You can say, for future reference, I'm gesturing at placing this under this other category that's currently not on the board, but
Oh, so you can say, I want to put this on.
Space is a spatial region.
Yeah, so we can place space under spatial region.
Okay.
Until we get that card on the board, then that's fine. I'll put that right here.
I wonder if we could have like a whiteboard situation going.
Yeah, I think so too.
I can try to get it.
Now we have fiat point and whole, communicate, and skip a turn for somebody else.
Trying to think.
Space is just under continuant.
So space
Yeah,
under spatial region, like putatively. Currently it's sitting there, but that's the idea.
okay. And we'll put whole under sight.
Okay, whole under sight. Okay, you want to object?
No.
It's a way to describe.
That's a great place to finish.
It's a way, but I don't think it's necessarily the way to describe. If you're referring
The
to
only way.
what?
Tim said it's the only way.
It's the only way to maybe describe the boundary that a whole contains, but a whole itself would not be a site, but the boundary would be a site. So
But a whole has a boundary in order to be a whole. Otherwise, wouldn't be a whole.
Find the boundary.
well, if you're referring, it depends on
No open
what
hole.
the boundary, it depends on what you're defining the boundary as, because
Okay.
if you're referring to a boundary, your whole could be two-dimensional. And
Mhm.
it's hard to say that sites are two-dimensional.
Regina's gonna draw the structure.
So when we think about like the trunk of a vehicle,
I agree.
Mhm.
think of it being an empty space that we have to define, and we define that as a site.
Mhm.
So wouldn't a hole in something be defined as a site? Because we're trying to define the empty space that's at a location.
That has a specific region, right?
I just have a gameplay
What if
question.
I'm
Right now we
talking
have
about-
continuant and nothing in between. Wouldn't this discussion?
Sure, slap on, the independent continuant or whatever.
It was like hypothetically placed.
I mean, I guess you could go up to immaterial entity, but I mean, I think that's just too far to go up to put whole.
Just to get it the most specific, so you need, that's the thing, I think, that if you do that, it makes the game more interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I agree.
okay.
Are there sites in
Which is the
Euclidean
same, kind of
geometry?
the same question.
So Josh is asking if there are sites in Euclidean geometry,
Because you can have holes in Euclidean.
because you can have
geometry.
holes in Euclidean geometry.
Can you?
Well, just what do you mean by whole?
What do you mean by hole?
I don't think you can.
You mean by the absence of something which is not defined as a whole?
Do you hear him?
Say again?
He said, you mean like the absence of something that's not defined as a whole?
No, I mean something that has boundaries that can have either like a blind hole, a through hole, a cavity.
Mhm.
You can't just.
You could.
That would be a site, right? What you just said, a cavity.
You can have.
Or would-
Uh,
But then it's not, everything's a whole.
Yeah, Jisu? What's that?
Yeah, that's the idea.
So
Yeah, it's an itemized space.
So
I don't use anything like
this-
that.
It's got a boundary, right?
Right.
You can have a three-dimensional.
Visu, yeah, Visu has a question, yeah.
Should be tools.
question.
Uh-huh.
So let me just have the floor. So what stops us from putting all the cards on here without any thread that connects to continuum or higher level?
Yeah, I'm
Then
not sure.
Well, the cards which.
I think
I'm not
it's
sure.
that you have to add it to you have to add it to
Then-
the existing model.
Then,
but
then space and hole does not belong here.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well,
so
that's
did
the
I,
argument.
so maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I shouldn't have allowed that. You're supposed to build off the existing structure?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to, yes, it will be a network.
Okay.
of some kind,
So
but-
maybe I've done us a disservice because we don't have the rest of the structure to use. And
Yeah.
that would make it too easy. So we have to build off the existing structure that Regina is building so you guys can see it.
First card was the-
Oh, so we can't use certain
Yeah.
cards until they come up
I
later?
think I made a mistake in placing these cards.
Lower space.
But so
It
how
actually
about-
makes sense. It's the,
yeah, that would make a lot more sense. Let me pull the nebula and whole.
Whoa, that was, you decided after. Those cards are
Yeah,
down, brother. They're down.
There's kind of
Good
dangling
talk.
off of the structure now.
This is outrageous. I demand a recount.
We're working it out.
John, but these two are
But isn't it, this
continuum,
is the
so.
previous stuff.
They could be under.
I don't know, well, for this question,
I
about
think
this.
we can have it under continuum and then
Okay.
eventually someone is like, oh, you know what?
Okay. So we're not. So here's what we're doing. So we're gonna have, because what you have to do is place them under continuant, because that's building
Yeah.
up the structure. And then
Okay.
there will be additional like interspersing. So right now you actually don't need to, this is a good point. Like, this wasn't clear to me initially, but it's kind of a subtlety of the game that I like. So, you actually don't need to defend whole as a site or spatial region or whatever. You just have to defend it as being a continuant. Because that, or about, like, that's all you have to, because that's the level of at which you have to build off the structure.
Okay.
I think your task is a little easier, actually, so.
Yeah, what
Okay.
were you arguing about material continuum as a whole as a material continuum?
So I think he pulled that back, but then there was some concern, like there was a pushing back over whole being a site. But, you know, given the game as it's set up or the structure, you don't even need to push that back.
Well, the side card has to defend.
Absolutely, exactly, so.
That's right. Whoever wants to insert site above whole, then they have to defend that position.
This is a blind ontology.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just put it on
It's interesting.
You will have to follow BFO for sure, so you cannot put process above continuum, but so far there is no site here, so you don't need to talk about sites. You don't need to defend anything.
I like that. That's good.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. So I think we can leave the cards that you.
And there's just continuant, right, John? There's there's
far.
material.
Can you see the drawing that Regina is putting?
Yeah, you're doing a good job, yeah.
She's representing
And they
the
should
cards on the
be connected as
table.
well.
You should be able to edit it too. Okay.
Okay.
Good. And so right now, is this everything we have? I thought there were.
That's supposed to be a drawing of
Okay.
a dog.
Okay, so we don't have immaterial entity yet. Okay.
Don't have that yet. Okay. And so remaining, we have, you have.
I like the dog. The dog is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tim, you have a skip a turn card for somebody
Yeah.
else. You also have communicate and fiat point.
I'll skip a turn.
Okay.
Give you some time to think.
You can have somebody else skip a turn,
Okay.
like
Well, who's next?
skip your turn. I was gonna, so Jay is next on my screen.
Oh, skip him.
Okay.
He's too easy. Yeah.
Ha! All right,
He
Jay.
has BFO tattooed on his arm. It's cheating.
Sorry, Jay.
All right.
Love you, Jay.
All right.
So next I have Mike on the screen. So Mike, you have a plagiarism wild card, which means you can choose a player and look at their cards, and you can take two of them and then play your turn. I'm also going to go ahead and draw a card for you. Because you also have process boundary. So this is part of the BFO structure. You actually have another plagiarism card, so you can do that. You can do that again. You have a realizable entity card, which is part of the BFO structure. You have, interestingly, you have a thread hijack wild card, which means you clean up the cards and start over. You can wipe the deck. You can wipe the model and start again. I know. You also have a sculpting A card. And Kane's Venatici TC. Kane, what is this? What is it? Tooth? What is tooth? What?
I
Kane's,
assume it's a species of dog.
it's Kane's Venatici. It's some kind of dog. I thought it was like an astrological symbol.
What is it? Maybe.
Kane's Venatici? Easy?
Venatici.
I don't know. Is this
Yeah,
Italian? Is this Spanish?
It's one of the 88 constellations.
Oh.
Designated by the.
It's a constellation, I guess, or it's a species of dog, or it's your favorite friend who you nickname. I don't know. So those are your cards.
Okay.
The hunting dog constellations.
Feel
free to ask me if you want to repeat any of this. I know that was a lot to take in.
Yeah, I think so. One of my cards is a fiat surface or something like that, right?
Yeah, fiat. Let's see, what was it? Fiat.
Yeah, let me tell you this.
Oh wait, there was no fiat, though. I'm sorry, not that. There was you do have parts of the BFO structure though, like realizable entity, process boundary, object aggregate.
Okay, I think I'll put a realizable entity under. I think that would go above material entity and below continuant, right?
Would go below continuant.
Yeah.
And I'll just, because everybody has this hierarchy here, that they can look at. So I don't want you to be at a disservice because they can see this and you can't. But we place realizable entity under continuant, but in a separate part of the hierarchy from material entity.
Okay, I see.
I'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Okay. We place continuant or realizable entity. All right. And then, yeah, so you do have, again, you have parts of the BFO structure, which I think are pretty straightforward to lay down. Process boundary and object aggregate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for now I will just hold on to my cards and I will look up the BFO hierarchy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Regina is requesting that you add realizable entity under continuant.
Okay, sure.
Now, you always have, just want to say, in the interest of being a neutral chaos person like I am, you have this thread hijack card, which will allow you to wipe everything and make us start over. And you know, the Joker in me loves that. But you know, you don't have to play it if you don't.
Okay, cool.
Going what? Damn it. All right, moving on. There's J's and okay, now next is oh wait, where'd Obi go? Is Obi still there?
Regina, I don't know how to add realizable entity under continuant.
If you tap the T on the left, you should.
I don't. You said T on the left?
There's like a tools bar. If not, I can do that.
Yeah, I don't see any T on my screen.
That's fine. I'll do it. No worries.
And it turns out you're next.
Okay.
Regina's next. Let's see. Regina's played this before.
One time.
I definitely think next time we're just gonna do one card at a time. Yeah.
But not this time, right?
Not this time.
I'm just gonna overlay material entity.
Okay, so Regina has laid down material entity on top of material entity, which is totally legit.
Identities now.
I think I'm gonna do object aggregate
Uh-huh.
in between, so under a material entity, I'm putting, I think nebula, I'm gonna say,
Mhm.
goes under object aggregate.
Okay.
Okay, so
So-
whenever you have to bridge two classes,
Mhm.
you also have to tell if all the subclasses. will
Yeah,
go
that's
under it.
right.
Yeah,
You have to-
yeah.
So now you have the burden of arguing.
Of explaining
all
why
the
a
things,
nebula is an
yeah,
object,
yes, because
object
you're
aggregate.
You're
Yeah.
a foster parent now.
So,
You-
Regina-
The
Just
children,
Yeah.
the nebula child.
Regina needs to defend why she's just placed nebula or had nebula as a sub of object aggregate.
I'm gonna just go with the idea, so, right, the idea of a nebula is it's a material entity, it's like a cloud of gases out in space that can range extremely large distances, I think, so. It's material, because it's made of, the material things that make up the cloud, like the dust and whatnot. But it doesn't seem to be maximally self-connected in the way I would want an object, a proper to be. Where's BFO? There it is.
But it's kind of like a heap though. You can't just add and take away and it still says the same thing. I'd have thought
Oh, but that's okay.
No, but I'd have thought an aggregate had to be heapy. And I don't know.
Not in BFO. In BFO, the only thing is that you have membership instead of R2 that is not transitive. So you lose this.
That is a component, but there's something to the heapy.
Do you
thing that you're
need
saying.
scatteredness? No.
Not
The heap's not
necessarily,
scattered.
Exactly.
but
So
you do
it
have
can
to
be
have,
scattered.
you'd have to
Can-
have
yeah.
disjoint objects that have no mereological overlap.
We don't.
That's it.
We don't specify the
Because
persistence.
the things in the heap don't overlap, they're in contact, but they don't overlap.
We don't specify persistence condition of aggregates in BFO. So
Well, we do,
should
we do. Yeah. They have membership conditions, like membership persistence conditions.
Oh, in that sense, but.
Yeah, they have,
we
you
don't
have to,
a
you have to
threshold.
start with at least two, but you can drop down to one, like a
Yes.
wolf litter,
Besides that, you don't have.
Like a what?
thresholds.
a wolf litter.
A wolf
So-
litter.
We
So
are.
what would be another example of something that's disconnected?
Pair of shoes.
Yeah.
The Beatles.
Why are my organs not?
Would they not be there, so they're not
Same as a
aggregates?
measurement, not a.
Are
A
they
pair of shoes?
part of a system?
I would say a pair of shoes is an
Same
object
that-
aggregate.
no
Two
actual
shoes
rock.
are not
That's-
individually
that's-
connected.
No, the heap subclasses, when it compose a part of the
Some measurements,
you become an aggregate, you put it back together and stop.
Yeah.
They're arguing about object aggregates now.
Yeah, I mean, it'd probably be some type of astronomical object aggregate.
A nebula is composed of like multiple things, right?
Yeah.
So therefore,
Mhm.
makes
But-
sense.
But so am I, right?
Okay, because all of my cards are scattered, I am dead.
Let's see, I'm gonna let this go for a second, and then we're gonna vote. Mhm. She's thinking, just thinking.
I have the answers on my screen, I just can't talk about them.
Right, so you will have an individual which
don't know if
needs
I
to
agree.
be of type X
That's
and
the
becomes to be of
vocabulary.
type Y, then becomes steps.
Well,
Step X again.
it doesn't,
It sounds like we need to vote.
yeah.
Wait,
Oh,
It
yeah.
sounds like we need to vote.
I think you should finish this thought,
Go for
because
it.
I think it is, because the trombone is different, because
Yeah.
the slide and the horn are components of one entity versus a flock of geese are objects that can be disjoint independently, but when they are together, they become an aggregate,
Mhm.
and that's why it's not one
That's
to
a
one.
good example, so I think a flock is slightly different because they're coordinating, but if you imagine a pile, a heap, there's no one coordinating, where you drive a truck full of bricks, the bricks, there's a lot of, I mean, certainly in 1596, they do a lot of work on building sites and stuff like that. You know, you get a bag full of screws, that's an aggregate, it's random whether they're in there, so I think there's an issue about whether it forms a system of some kind or not.
Coordination.
Yeah, and I would say that's why I say.
But that's a condition on,
They're trying to sway you because there is no system here.
Yeah.
So you just have to define the minimum.
yeah,
assumption that
it's
you have.
like, I think that has
But
to
stop,
bear on the
I don't
question of
know
whether
about
it's an
some
object
stars.
aggregate.
Planet.
But it's not just those stars and planets, sometimes it's
think
just
there's
like
a, like,
accumulations of gas.
Just have
I
to.
don't think that
I
opposition-
I do, because
I'm not-
then there's the difference between focusing on the object part of it and then focusing on the aggregate part of it.
So I think
And if you're, but if you wanna address it as
Can
aggregate.
I give you a
need to define
counterexample?
object first.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
an object is
Just sums of
defined-
objects.
They're all very different things, I mean, I.
Mhm.
function
Yeah, I
of
understand that
an
stuff in
object.
this bag
Well,
is
object
an
aggregate, like,
because they're all different
they
things
will
in
be
But the stuff in your
like
bag
objects
doesn't make it
as
a
a
bag,
part of
but the stuff in the nebula makes it a nebula.
So functioning
If you're defining it as a
What is
combination
functioning?
of gases, the things in your bag don't
All right.
define it as a bag.
So let's,
It's a bag.
let's vote.
And the things in the bag.
Let's go ahead and vote.
All
All right, so how many people think that a nebula is an object aggregate? Show of hands. Oh, shit.
Yep.
7, okay. The aggregates have it. All right,
Are
continue.
you done?
No, and then I actually didn't look this up, but I'm just assuming it's a nebula. Actually, NGC
What's an instance of
4214.
All right,
Instance
Regina
of a
has an
nebula.
instance of a nebula. Good luck drawing that.
Oh, shit. A box is an instance of a material entity.
So Regina has laid down an instance of nebula under nebula, and she has laid down an instance of a box under material entity, like a cardboard box.
It's on the instance level, so
Yeah.
go.
Okay, but we don't know.
This
We-
is
we-
where
we
the
need-
orientation stuff gets
That would be
messy.
sorted up there.
Katie is a house instance of a house cat.
We
There's
don't know
an
whether
inst-
it's a mouse cat or a stray cat.
That's
You can.
Oh,
This is the issue with distances.
Oh, be reasonable.
give a stray cat a name.
Not a stray, I like that.
You give a stray cat a name.
No, you
I have a stray cat in my yard all the time. I'm like,
Cat
Max.
run away after I gave it a name.
She is a material entity.
Okay, Regina has placed another material
That's
entity.
actually all I can do.
What is a material entity?
I think it's an
We
instance
can
of a
play with
dog,
this.
like a
It's
name
a
Shishi.
statue.
A statue, I'm
Instance
sorry.
of a dog?
Yeah, an instance of a statue, actually.
Hold on, and we don't have anything less than material entity for her to put that under, like
That's
object?
right. It looks like it.
Okay,
Now Regina has to do a lot of drawing.
sounds fun.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do the-
No.
but she has stopped her term because she can't continue. Was there any,
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna make it.
Giacomo is gonna enlighten us now.
Wow.
Are we writing suggestions as we go, or? is
Yeah,
this-
go for it. I am.
Yeah, I am too.
I don't even know what my cards are because I got
I know,
skipped.
'cause you gotta skip.
So,
I
Yeah.
probably have all of the ones that everyone needs.
By the way, that was brutal and I loved it. No offense, Jay, that was just awesome.
Oh, it's fine.
The reasoning was sound. It's like,
qualities are
you
continuous,
got BFO tattooed on you somewhere.
unrealizable.
What do you have? What's your point?
A quality is a continuum.
Equality is a continuum.
And then there is a cat picture which I put under house cat.
Ah, it's a picture, so
A
it's not a
picture.
cat.
Oh.
No, that picture represents a cat.
Oh my gosh.
As in the same way in which the writing house cat represents the class.
Mm-hmm. enough.
We have independent continuants finally.
Okay, we have independent continuants on the stage. So let's see.
This needs to go here because these are dependent stuff.
Mm-hmm. So now you are defending that all of those things are bearers.
And defending that material entities, object aggregates, nebulas, and house cats are all independent entities.
Is that another cat?
Yes, they are. Material should go there. So you're putting it between continuant and material entity, right?
Yeah, it's exactly where you would expect. And
Yep.
now you are on the hook. In the event that anybody wants to object, now he's on the hook for defending that the instances that fall under there are bearers. Because independent continuants are
Oh.
bearers.
And I will move this as independent continuants as well.
It's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I told them about.
What have you done with the space?
I mean, these were just under continuous, and now I have to choose whether it's either with this.
But I think.
Why should you, why should you choose where they consider continuous?
They were just under continuum, and I'm arguing that they are also
Yeah,
dependent.
and I think it'll be good.
Ah, okay,
I was
okay,
thinking
yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
discussion where we put
No,
them
it's true,
alongside
no,
each
it's
other.
because, like,
Think about the
Is the
overlap.
foster parent,
the things at the bottom may be
like,
the
it puts
particulars
something
that you
between
share.
classes, so
Yeah,
yes,
we
the
covered
burden
that.
of explaining all the,
Yeah, I have to choose whether things go under this new class that I introduced.
let's see, because you're breaking. Yes.
You mark
that's
certain
it.
things as, okay, like,
Actually-
it's like the dialogue stuff we're doing, you mark certain things. you can
So people say that
Not
between, so actually you can
not
put,
pre-ontologize.
your
Yeah.
decision would be,
That would, that.
you can leave whole and space under continuant without classifying.
Okay, or you can
Where
also
are-
choose
You
to
can
put
choose
them
to
into
put
Where
them.
are they? What are we
We
doing?
don't have a specific.
arguing that whole and space are subclasses of independent continuance.
Okay, whole, the claim is whole and space are subclasses of independent continuance. So what's the argument?
But Jisoo also
Oh.
pointed out, can you rearrange the
Okay.
the hierarchy that was already predefined?
We are,
That's what you're
so
saying, right?
there are ways, you cannot rearrange everything just shuffling,
Sure.
shuffling the classes. The fact is that he puts a class between two existing classes,
Yeah.
okay?
Mm-hmm,
So he has to argue about all the children that are under his class,
mm-hmm.
okay? Second, so what he did, so he said continuant, he put this one, so there is a direct connection now. All these were under continuant.
Whoa.
He's doing something more difficult and we don't have a
Wow.
rule for it
What is
now.
he trying to do with space?
So he's arguing that you say space and whole are both independent continuants, is that?
So he could.
So he's arguing that space, the class space and the class whole are independent continuants. The wholes bear properties?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What's like what?
Extension.
Extension.
Well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, see?
There is a recent paper.
Does a point?
Yeah, extension equals to 0.
Cop out.
So
You mean
it's-
you mean zero
The
extension?
the implied rule would be if you're declaring a new class that by virtue of hierarchy affects its children, you must then be able to accommodate rearranging where those children.
Why are you putting independent continuant over there? Because independent continuant,
Against.
all material entities are independent continuants, so it should be on the other side.
Argue.
Yeah, was that,
Just trying to
Okay.
get this.
That's fair.
Oh, I think she just felt fleshing it out.
Yeah,
My argument is the following.
Sorry.
They
Okay,
are,
Giacomo's got an argument.
they ought to be either independent continuants, generically dependent continuants, and specifically dependent continuants. I will definitely want space and whole to be somewhere under immaterial entity. I do not have immaterial entity yet, so just
Yeah.
put them under independent continuant.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because they're gonna be something like a site or something, which is an immaterial entity. You're right, yeah.
Okay.
You're arguing that they're continuous then,
They're independent.
independent continuous.
So
So
there is.
space isn't a process?
I think a space and
They're arguing that
I wouldn't put space there.
Okay, so should we?
I don't
So
think
Chris
it's
is a
better
four-dimensional-
because it's not got a temporal element.
Hmm.
Okay, so space and time are disjoint.
Does that follow? How does that
You
follow?
said space doesn't have a temporal element.
I think that what you do, I think it's really interesting what you do, in the same way psychiatric disorders. No, I'm being serious now. I think is that what you've done is, I think it's space-time, but you ignore the time. You abstract away from the time, because I think you keep it, because I asked that question, you keep the spatiotemporal identity. So if you take the space away for two spatiotemporally, it's the other way different. So you have two spaces, where one's a temporal part of another, and you take away the temporal identity. Okay, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm trying to frame it.
Yeah.
Get like mine. So I think it's interesting that what you claim that I would be, yes, so this is the same thing. It's how you do your structure. I mean, I bet you can do it both ways, as a process and as not, but what are the consequences?
Yeah, that's gonna goof up, like, if you have the class of some entity defined by space and you have to declare a time element for every instance of it, that just seems unnecessary.
Okay, so you got a slightly different intuition. Can you explain?
Why is it necessary that
Give me a
space,
concrete example, that'd be easier. Me, so.
the class of what an instance of space?
So, okay, so when I'm trying to imagine it, and I like to imagine a particular thing. So I thought, say what you said again, and I'll try and give you what I think an example would be, and then we can decide.
Well, I don't understand why, he sounded like what Giacomo was saying was that every instance of space must have a time component. That's not true.
No, okay, so I would say, what I was saying is my understanding is that you start with space-time, and you get space by ignoring the time, and you get time by ignoring, well, that's different, by ignoring the space.
Oh,
I think I agree with you, but then you will have like a class called space-time, which will go under the time stuff, maybe.
I'm just talking.
Or in between, or
It'll
whatever.
be different because it's, when you've abstracted it, like, I think you can run it either way depending on how you do it, but I think, my guess is you'd want to run them as three different things, time, space and space-time, and I think you did that. I mean,
We did.
under those, I haven't studied, so I don't know.
I think we're talking about late concepts of space, not time or time.
You're talking about ontology.
I think then, like, what about
I disagree.
house cat is a late person, a late concept, late person concept. How it's not speaking. It's not. Yeah, it's.
Oh my God, it doesn't have to be a.
No. That's what I'm saying. It's not purely scientific, like perspective.
Yeah.
Because why does it matter? We have to abstract space from space time. Does it help?
Because, okay, so, yeah, so the issue that he's got, sorry, the issue, what I'm really, okay, so I did this top level survey where I had these physical choices, and I think you can broadly.
Chris is a
have
four-dimensionalist,
space of
so
possible
everything's
choices.
a currenty for
Now,
his
when you
view.
work down it, when
So
you
that's
get
why he's
into
arguing.
detail, to make big choices, there's a whole series of little choices that you make that shape how your ontology behaves. If you're trying to have it behave in a consistent way, you choose one way or the other. You choose to drive on the right, or you choose to drive on the left. You choose inches or centimeters or something. So you make these choices. So what I'm saying is that the choices, often the really important choices in ontology relate to identity. So what I'm pointing out in this discussion with Giacomo, and we've been discussing, so it's not fair, we've been discussing outside, is that if the way in which you work out identity for space is in terms of space arises when you consider space-time and ignore the temporal element, then obviously you've got this choice. If you've got two space-times that were one's a temporal part of another and you ignore the time element, I would have thought it collapsed so that you could argue it becomes the same space, or you could argue it becomes different. They're two choices. And I don't know what BFO does, but if I was God, or who's that guy? You know, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, there's this guy who's that. If I was that guy, but I was doing metaphysical space rather than physical space, what would I choose? And I think it's neither science, because science actually doesn't worry about things, or common sense, because they couldn't understand what you're talking about. But I think it's about it's about ontology building.
Yeah, but aren't you discounting the realist perspective which BFO is built on? I mean, right there. So space is a physical component. Does time have a physical component?
So sorry. Okay, so I think everything's physical. So in my mind, I'm not talking. John's looking at.
No, I'm just letting this happen.
Yeah, but okay, okay. So my personal experience is you can make all these grand common sense claims or theoretical claims, but when you cash them out, they've got to be consistent. They've got to work together like a jigsaw puzzle. All I'm pointing out is that you've got this series of space of choices, and they're just formal choices. Forget about what else you believe. You go one with the other. Now, if you happen to think that one of the choices is because it's more physical, I'm not gonna. You have fun, yeah. But as long as you can tell me what your choice is, then I'm happy, yeah. And all I'm saying, I can't see. Okay, so let me put it a different way. I sense your argument as being of this kind. I'm saying there are these formal choices, and you're saying something's physical. We're talking about different things. If it proves to me that there aren't these formal choices, I mean, there may be other formal choices, and that's great because then we've got a bigger space, we've got a bigger design space. But I can't see any other. I mean, I've got jet lag, so am I being coherent? Am I making sense, Giacomo? Yes or no?
Partial.
But which bit isn't? Which bit isn't though?
I don't think it's that you're not making sense, but in the scope of dialectic between Giacomo's claim versus the response.
Okay, I'll go away from that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so but with that, let's vote. Giacomo, what's your position?
Space and holes are independent continuous.
So space and hole. How many think space and holes? We're going to do a two-part. Space and holes are independent continuants.
Oh, is that really?
So just 1, 2, 3.
Oh, really?
Hey, John, I disagree completely.
Okay.
So so if we think that BFO starts with entity,
Dave's got some responses.
so this is the thing. There is an RDF class that exists outside of BFO, and it's the class of nothing. Space is nothing.
Yeah.
So when so I can't say much about the space ontologies, but what I can say is that they don't represent space. They represent space objects in space. Can't represent space.
That is what they're called.
And like whole is a site that's bounded, right? Because it's like a hole in my shirt or a hole in the side of my house. You can't bound. We don't even know the parameter. The only boundary we have of the universe is the visible universe. It's not even bounded. So the fact is, what we try to ontologize is we try to ontologize the objects and the processes and the continuance and the occurrence that exist in space. But we don't define space because it's the absolute opposite of entity. It's nothing. So like when you take something that has a velocity, say an exit velocity from the Earth, right? Okay, now we're going to represent that off the Earth, right? And it's going through space. Now we're going to represent it off of the solar system and against how fast it's going to pass the moon, how fast it's going to pass other planets. But when you get out into interstellar space, all of a sudden, that object actually has no velocity under Einstein. And until there's another object that comes near it, it can't even measure its own velocity because there's nothing there. So you get into deep space where there's not even particulates or anything within hundreds of thousands of miles. It's just the absolute negation of entity.
What is the class of outer space?
All right, so you've heard the other side. Here's what we're going to do, given the divisive nature of the vote. So we will split this in two. So Giacomo is defending two claims. I'll separate them. One, whole is a subclass ultimately of independent continuant. That's one, and the other we'll do space in a minute. But we'll start with whole. So how many of you think that whole is a subclass of independent continuant? Hands up. How many people think that this class whole is a subclass of independent continuant?
I do.
6, 7, and 8. Okay, the 8s have it. Okay, now shut up. Shut up. Maybe. And now space. So how many think that space is a subclass? So it's a class and it's a subclass.
What do we mean by the class of space?
I don't know, but space is a subclass of independent continuum. How many think yes?
Independent?
Independent continuum. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Can I vote for myself?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now, John, are we talking about the concept of space that is concretized in the mind of philosophers? Because if it's the concept of space, that's different than the actual like.
You're not talking about
concepts.
Spatial region.
Yeah, I think that the consensus seems to be more along the spatial region area.
No.
Initially, that we're talking about E equals MC squared.
So what was that?
The region has to be bounded by a site.
So was that a tie?
No.
So how many people? 1, 2, 3,
4,
7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, 11. So, yeah, the noes have it. So
Wait.
please remove your space. Please remove space. The vote, that's how it votes. Remember this on November 5th. This is election fraud.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so with that, Giacomo's turn is over and Jisoo is up.
They voted against.
I thought this was gonna be a lot faster. We haven't even made it one round.
Hold on, is space staying there?
Space has been removed. But is now laying down across. Oh, it's there, but it's not under independent continuum. Okay, Jisoo is laid down.
So I overlapped object aggregate.
Huh?
Overlapped object aggregate.
Okay.
And then I put immaterial entity under independent continuum.
Okay.
And then donut is an instance of, no. It's an instance of, material entity.
So donut, what is donut? What is donut? Is it just a
Material
picture of a donut?
Yeah, it's just a picture of it.
So there's a picture of a donut, and Jisoo is claiming it as a material entity, an instance of a material entity.
Hey, John, do you want space under continuant or just floating by itself?
So space was
Under
initially
continuant.
placed under continuant, and then there was the argument back and forth, and so because the vote went against Giacomo, it's now gone back to where it was.
I argued that it's not even under continuant.
Well, that wasn't yet on the table, but I have a feeling it's gonna come back.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm putting that argument out there.
Okay.
Some terms before.
So
If it is on the table, it's somewhere.
non-living being for some instances,
Oh,
box,
wait.
paintings, shishi, donut, and nebula.
Okay, so Jisoo has just laid the class down, non-living being, and you placed it under what?
Right above, box, the instance of box, painting, shishi, donut, and nebula.
And so it's
And under-
between material entity
Yeah,
in all of those instances. So non-living being is a class that comprises many of the instances and sits under material entity.
Between non-living being and, an instance of box, I put the class box.
So there's a class box that Jisoo has placed under non-living being, and between that and an instance of a cardboard box.
Then I put moon, a picture of moon. Right
Picture of the
nebula,
moon.
Instance of nebula.
Okay, so Jisoo has
So
just
the
placed
moon
a
is an
picture of the moon
No, it's an instance.
next to.
Hold on, is the box a cardboard box or is that just a concept of a box?
Okay.
So,
and
so
then-
Jay has a question about a previous play. He has asked, is the box in, what did you say, cardboard box?
Is it like a material entity, like a cardboard box, or is it just a concept of box?
Or is it just a concept?
Concept.
Or maybe we are, because we can represent such things, like if we're drawing polygons and we were trying to track things,
Well,
we draw boxes. So this is, this is the back and forth. So.
Yeah.
Jay is, I think I'll put a sharper point to it. Jay is objecting to box being under material entity, and he's suggesting that it would be better placed as something more like information. He doesn't have to say that. All he has to do is say something like it's better placed as continuant and not so far down the tree, because generically dependent continuants aren't on the table.
Do we have to vote?
No, well, it looks like if Jisoo just conceded. Well, so, okay, hold on. If you've conceded, the turn's open.
Why?
Because you've conceded the argument. Well, then now you
You're
gotta
still
argue.
thinking about it, play the other song first and then come back to it.
Well, so now you got, well,
We
you
have to
can't,
play a vote.
yeah, you can't just continue on. You have to respond and you have to argue. So,
It motivates to
I think-
non-controversial first.
That's what I was thinking.
oh yeah, absolutely. I think Jisoo was trying to play the non-controversial first, and then now she's gotten wrapped up in a dispute with Jay.
I think when we think of box, then we are not thinking about metaphorical boxes like Dropbox, you know, like. So we're thinking about middle-sized dried goods
Mhm.
that contains other things. I think that's the definition of box.
Mm-hmm.
And then anything else that's immaterial, non-material, then it's metaphorical.
A
Mm-hmm.
receptacle. I would like
Receptacle.
that's.
Yeah, I wouldn't pick that as the RDFS label for what you just said,
Mm-hmm.
right? I would have to, they would have to be more distinct, because if I'm thinking about a box, right, like,
Why is it box? Why is it not two box?
It's a class box.
But like.
Oh, Josh is throwing in another concern. He
Why
is
isn't it
suggesting that why is this not a process like two box?
But hold on a
Which
second.
is honestly, so just to make sure the dialectic is clear, is not like, Jay, you don't have to agree with Josh all the way to the bank,
I don't even.
but he is on your side in the.
oh,
sense-
no, I agree that he's
It's-
bringing up distinctions that, like, this is the problem when
Yeah,
you come up with things like,
like you guys, like dialectically, you were both on the same side with respect to Jisoo and the placement. So I just, even if you don't agree.
But-
Can we put it, oh, sorry.
In Aristotelian metaphysics,
Oh, shit.
The class box gets its definition from the instances that are understood as this is a box. So I don't know what the gentleman said on there, but he was arguing something more abstract maybe, but that supports her argument because the general notion of what a box is and what that term refers to is because of, you know, how we're using it, right? So the class of box would be defined by the instances of boxes that we're generally referring to when we use that term.
I do remember in Metaphysics Gamma, Aristotle talking specifically about the instances of cardboard boxes. I'm kidding. Point stands, I'm joking.
Yeah.
So Jisoo
Well, like,
requested a vote.
I'll give you an example, right? In military warfare, you oftentimes want to box in your opponent, right? So you're not going to let them get outside of a boundary area, and you're not going to let them, you know, if you have air superiority, that they can't go into the sky. So they're literally in a box. So what I'm saying is like just the concept of box. Like, I'm not trying to be difficult here, but like, it's easy for us to just say, oh, it's a cardboard box you get from FedEx and you're going to put stuff in it. That's an easy thing to do. But the problem is that if you start using easy terminology and easy ways to do it now, when you then have 9 other types of boxes that are in a larger model, your model breaks.
No, if I was inside a very big cardboard box, I would say I'm in a big cardboard box. But if I was like driving and there's like trucks all around me, I would say it's as if I'm in a box because I
understand that, but it's also the idea of like if I say it's the act of swimming, that might be the RDFS label for swimming, but we might have a SCOS preferred label that's just swimming, because who the hell is going to call it the act of swimming? But the system needs to understand, and the ontologists that are dealing with this need to understand exactly what you're talking about. And in a lot of situations, you want to be very, very distinct what you're talking about. That's all I'm saying.
This is why there are many definitions to a word, and then some of definitions are metaphorical and then literary rather than literal.
Yes, and that's why for all those different definitions, they're all going to need to have distinct RDFS labels.
Purely metaphorical.
So okay, I'll step in. Okay, let's vote. Let's vote. So Jisoo has placed and maintained that box, the class box, is a subclass of material entity. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Further,
so how?
Non-living being.
No, it's
Oh, I'm
right
sorry.
above the instance.
Yeah, a box. So it is a non-living, it is a subclass of non-living being, which is a subclass itself of material entity. And so box is a subclass of that. And so it's over the instance of box. So how many say that is the appropriate placement for box?
Box is a box.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All
7,
boxes
8.
are enclosed spaces, not all enclosed spaces are boxes.
Okay, so we have 8 in favor.
Oh, am I the only one not in favor? Okay.
I think.
Wow.
I
Okay.
condemned it and didn't.
All right.
Jisoo shall continue.
And then I'm playing a measurement in lumens under continuum.
A measurement in lumens
And then
under continuum.
I deserve better.
And Jisoo said she deserves better, which is what is that?
What does that do?
This says replace my cards with new cards from the deck.
But
Next
that's
my
the only
old
card.
cards.
So you get new cards.
Jisoo has won.
No.
No, you need to replace that with the.
No, but
He's only got
Oh wait, no, that's
It's one
true.
card, one card.
Yeah, replace that.
Uno.
I'm gonna replace the
No,
card with a card.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then she's won.
well,
She's got any
I can
cards
take
there.
whatever. How many?
no, but you have to
In
zero.
the interest of.
Oh, she has to give her a card, and then if she can do it with it, can you do it? No.
This is interesting. We have to put it in the rules. So, hello, I'm putting some.
Okay, so Federico will continue.
Now it's my turn. So there are some duplicates. We don't have specific rules for duplicates. I'm just placing where they are. It is
Duplicate,
continued.
was there a rule you can't object to?
I would like to have this
We
rule.
shouldn't have, yeah, we shouldn't have those in there.
Object.
So if you don't believe that something is identical to itself, you can object.
Go for it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I read some Geach, man. I don't know.
Relative identity, fantastic. So I have one by one. Oh, I give you a big chance in the next turns to use occurrence. So I'm putting occurrence.
Okay,
as
so a
sibling.
current is on the table.
Occurrence as a
Finally.
sibling of continuance.
Woo! Took time.
Then I have cat, and I will put it as a class between house cat as a subclass and material entity
Okay.
as a superclass.
So cat is a parent class to house cat and a subclass to material entity, and not a function or operator that you would use to combine symbols.
Then I will put these Kaido, the dog.
Is it a picture of a
An
dog?
so it's an instance under.
Hold on, can I disagree with house cat being a subclass of cat?
Oh, a
I
parent.
don't
so it's a-
care, it's not my turn for house cats.
No. Hold on. Wait, so you placed cat as a parent class of house cat, right?
Okay, so I.
Are you objecting to that?
I'm objecting.
So Jay's gonna object.
Okay, sure.
So it's not, it's a disposition, it's a role. It's a role that cat can take, because a tabby could be a feral cat out in the wild. It can be a house cat. There's nothing that tells me ontologically universally that cat is going to be a house cat. It's a role that cat can take.
Very interesting, but we don't have roles in this ontology, so
No, but you can
But
put
it
it
was-
under realizable entity.
it's already, house cat is already placed in a certain position.
House
You
cat
can-
role would
yes.
be the
So it
word.
isn't your
So if
decision.
you
Yeah.
had to you had to object some terms before.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, but it wouldn't even be under that at all. It would, like you said, be a subclass one.
This is a good point. It certainly is, but it was one earlier for whomever placed down
Yeah.
house cat under material entity,
Because
because that was already there.
The only
You
way
get, you
to
get what I'm
do-
saying?
There
Yeah, what I'm
should be-
saying?
I feel like.
You think there should be a rule that we
I
place?
think I agree with Jay that like whatever your ontology touches is now up for debate.
Hmm.
We could.
Or whatever your term, sorry, whatever your term.
Well, so then, like, what happens if Federico agreed?
That's a good.
Then they should, then we vote.
I mean, cat can be under material entity, but
I lost-
house cat, that's a role.
As
You
cat
lost
is
his
under
turn.
material entity, that cannot be changed.
Mhm.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you're building your ontology, right, and you might be building it because you have a bunch of instance data from a customer, and you might start with just house cat, and you might think in the beginning, oh yeah, that's a material entity. And then when they give you cat, right, or they give you pet or something, then all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, my model's wrong. I need to fix this because actually it's just a role that a cat plays.
I think Jay is right. And I'm not sure how, given the current setup, we address that. But it is.
I don't think you
we
hurt
should-
the person who put it down originally, but I think it's the group, we need to fix it.
Okay.
So just go into continuous.
So then should we then vote on whether to change it or not?
I think
Yeah.
so. And maybe whoever placed house cat is the one who has to stand as a.
That
I would
would
choose
make
to.
sense.
She's
Like,
taking a
we should,
break.
I think.
Yeah, she seems like this was getting too much.
Maybe we can do it in another game, so we can add another spell cards that says revising the ontology, and then you revise it. Because otherwise,
Okay.
I
Well,
think we
we're-
could vote only of the move of the.
Yeah, I
person
understand.
does in the same
Well,
way.
we'll play this round like as intended, but then we should think about that for the next game,
Yeah, yeah.
like revising.
I think this is an important lesson to learn
Yeah.
though. Like I think to be a good ontologist, and John will probably, I hope, back me
You're
up.
absolutely right.
You have to call foul on yourself, right? And
Absolutely.
you have to be willing to correct problems. And that's why.
Yeah.
And that reason alone is why ontologies will work or they will not work inside of enterprise systems.
Yeah,
If
this
you're unwilling to call foul on yourself and fix something.
Going
We're
for a
good.
spell card that does it,
Yeah.
or maybe some rules.
Yeah, I think we'll think about a rule set
Yeah.
for when this event comes up, because it is a very good
Also
learning
because we have to
opportunity.
track who said so, because we need the author, like who
Yeah.
built this ontology, and then you have to call.
Maybe we'll just
people
put
directly.
initials next to these.
Yeah, no, that's good. So we
Yeah.
keep track of the author.
Sorry.
Can we do the,
of the
can we
device.
just remember it for now?
Could we? No, I mean, well, not now. Like,
Yeah,
we're not,
yeah, yeah.
who knows? Like,
So
I'm just thinking as we go, we
basically,
can put
just
for the next
that
round.
would have an author, basically, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's, I mean, it's a lot to track for a tabletop game. but
Absolutely.
it's cool.
All right, keep going.
Okay, so I still have these cards. I have
Are you looking at my wife? man?
cat.
Yeah.
I have Kaido
There's
the
an
dog
Italian
as
DJ
an
called-
instance.
You know this already.
Huh?
Kaido
There's
the
an
dog as
Italian
an
DJ
instance.
called
Kind
Holly.
of the
Really?
dog.
I didn't know.
Yeah, she was telling
And
me
I would put it under
etymology of the
material
origin of her
entity.
name.
I mean,
She's had-
it's an instance of material entity.
So you got an instance under
I have an instance that is Kaido the dog,
Kaido the
and I
dog.
put it under material entity.
Okay, Kaido the dog is under material entity, as Regina has displayed with this adorable emoji.
Okay. I wait for you to see, okay, it's
Okay,
already on
yeah.
the graph, great. Then I do something that nobody has done so far, and is another move, so you
Oh,
will see.
snap.
You can put
No one in the
classes
literature has ever
above
done
and
this.
below, or as siblings, but also you can conjoin classes.
Ooh, I love
Look at
that.
the eyebrow
eyebrow.
raise there. He's impressed
Ah.
with that.
So I have
Because the
artifacts
guy
here.
does- He's asking for us to object.
Yeah, I think so.
I have artifact here as a class is a white
Mhm.
card, and I am conjoining it, putting it adjacent to another card that is another class,
Okay.
of course. And it is non-living being, so non-living artifact.
Oh, you're.
Okay.
Wait,
So,
so it's now not non.
Could you change
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, well, this
It's
is
a
interesting.
one card now.
Okay, let's
What
be
do
clear.
that?
Let's
So
make sure.
under it, you the
Probably why non-living beings not in CCO.
So under it, now you have, just to mention, it would be,
Okay.
superclass would be a material entity. And the instances, there are no subclasses. The instances would be Shishi, the China dog, the donut. That's
Wait,
it.
the
And the
donut?
donut, yeah.
Let's see. So the box, right? The
And the box, you're right.
Okay,
This is
so
an artifact.
Let's put it here. This one.
so then
Non-living art.
so then donuts are artifacts.
Wait, is it, the
Boxes
word
of
is
art.
changing from non-living being to non-living artifact?
Non-living artifact.
Okay.
exactly.
I can think of two ways to evaluate this. One, the level of instances of thinking about, are these instances non-living artifacts? And two, I can think of objecting on grounds of what are living artifacts?
Exactly.
That's a good question,
Seedless grapes.
but it's not
Just
part.
throw in the seedless
Exactly,
grape.
exactly. It can be
But
part
then,
of.
Seedless
so
grapes
then
are
you
living.
change nebula, last side, unless you're gonna say that's an artifact.
No, because.
I don't think it falls
nebula is
under the
an
instance.
object aggregate.
But I
So-
think that, so can go forth and argue. Those seem two options.
So
Yeah, Jay, we were saying?
So just to level set for the room, so CCO changed artifact to material artifact in version 1.3, and the definition is a material entity that was designed by some agent to realize a certain function. So they believe artifacts are things that were designed by an agent. Okay, so what would not be an artifact would be something like a boulder. Okay, would not be an artifact. A rock would not be an artifact. It would be something that was really designed by a human being.
Yeah. So here we have an additional qualification, which is non-living artifacts. So it's not only that, it's non-living.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a non-living being is different than an artifact because a non-living being can be a rock formation, can be a dead tree,
Mhm.
like be a dead body, like,
Mhm.
and those aren't things that are artifacts because they weren't designed for a function by an agent.
Mhm.
So we have Shishi, the China dog, a donut, and a box, a cardboard box. These are the only instances that I claim are the instances of non-living artifacts.
If I clone a sheep and it dies, is that a non-living artifact?
I like it. Corpses are
Is
corpses.
a non-living clone?
artifacts.
Is
When
it-
something dies, is it now a non-living being?
Good question.
Well, I think you
Yeah,
got to
the
put
state
the
of-
tangential aspect of it. So I've cloned Dolly,
Mhm.
and now she's perished,
So,
unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think this works.
Why is it, these what, my claim or the general discussion?
No, I don't think you can make non-living being an artifact. I don't think you can make them, equivalent classes,
Mhm.
because universally they are very different. And then because not all non-living beings are artifacts,
Well,
because
I think he's conjoining them. So he's saying
saying
what?
that they're equivalent.
Yeah, he's not equivalent. He's adding
that
a
it's
qualification. So he's saying that instead of there being a class called non-living entity, he's saying the class should be non-living artifact. And so all the features of artifacts and all the features of non-living entities, he's bringing them together into one class,
It's a conjunction, not a disjunction.
which is
So
why.
if you go by how CCO defines what an artifact is, then that's not possible.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
We're in the
because an artifact would be something that was built by an agent
Yeah.
to do a function.
But this is exactly how to object, or like identifying, trying to identify counterexamples. Shall
Jay,
we-
I like your definition of CCO
Yeah.
artifacts.
Shall
And
we-
it's completely compliant with mine.
Shall we vote?
Wait, what? I agree with Jay.
Oh,
It's
so
an
you've
artifact-
conceded?
No, it's as I put it, everybody agrees, let's go on.
I don't agree.
Oh, no. Federico's trying to be slick. Shall we vote? Okay. Federico has laid down and said, I'm going to create a new class called instead of just non-living entity, I'm going to say it's non-living artifact. And now we've heard some suggestions on in favor and against why such a move might be plausible. So let's vote.
The sentences are just. Non-living artifact is under material entity,
Mhm.
and it has as instances Shishi, the China dog, a donut,
Mhm.
and a cardboard box.
Sure.
These are the two
Mhm.
sentences that say that I'm defending, that
Mm-hmm.
I'm claiming.
Okay.
Can we
So
create
shall
new classes?
Voting.
Yeah,
Shall
but
we-
universally, you can't defend that against non-living being.
Mhm.
Because there are things that are non-living beings like driftwood and a boulder.
But yes,
And those now don't have a place because you have to be a non-living artifact.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
what's the point?
Because artifact requires that a human being, an agent,
Yeah.
created it for a function.
And I say the contrary, right?
You say what? That artifacts aren't things that agents created for functions?
Did I say the contrary? What are we voting against? Because I said non-living artifact is under material entity.
So
Do
we're
you disagree?
we're not, he doesn't have,
Yes or no?
he doesn't have to disagree with that, but what he might disagree with is the plausibility of your conjoining of the two classes. So
Yeah.
But the
even though,
movement can be done.
nobody's saying it can't be done, but what we are saying is it's not enough to look at just the classes there. We're thinking about counterexample classes that might fall into there, that might be counterintuitive.
What is a counterexample class?
So something that is a non-living thing, that is not an artifact,
You have
something
to-
that is an artifact that is not
You have to
a
find-
non-living thing.
Counterexample to a definition.
Mhm.
I am not defining anything. I am playing with the terms that are there.
That's the part of the
And I have
conceptual
three
analysis.
instances.
Yeah.
So yeah, you find that Shishi is not a non-living artifact, or that the donut is not a non-living artifact, or the cardboard box is a non-living artifact. These instances, you can. So this would be.
We
your
need
point
not,
against
we
mine.
need not be so limited to our possible revisions.
Really?
We may, in fact, think about broader instances that might putatively fall under these classes or not as we play the game. It's part of building on.
I don't think you can just say, I should be able to argue my way to get rid of all my cards based upon what's on the board.
Oh, I mean, that
I
is.
think part of the game is I
that
might
is
not
the
be able to
game.
get rid of my card.
That
What's that?
actually is the game. That actually is the game. But I tell you what, let's vote. Okay, so Fede has suggested that it is a plausible class to construct, that he's generated a plausible class here, non-living artifact. How many are on board with this as an ontologically, remember what the rule said, an ontologically correct application? How many say yes?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, and 4. How many say no?
Big thumbs down right here.
I vote for
two.
myself, by the way.
Okay. Well, what was the original? 4 and 5?
5.
And so how many say no? So
Actually,
no. Jay's given 2 no's. Tim's out. I guess it's Tim. Tim's a no. So 3. How many you say no?
No, I say yes.
No.
5 yes, 3.
I really know.
3 no's. Well, and most people on a bathroom break too. So
Oh, man.
yeah. Well, in the interest of continuing
Hey,
on,
in Congress, they don't always vote, right? So
that's true. That's true. Go forth. Continue. You
Wait,
got lucky.
Is it passing?
Yeah, because there aren't a lot of people in here.
What do we do with Nebula then? That's obviously
I don't,
not an
no, but
artifact.
Nebula
He
was
wasn't-
on their object aggregate.
Yeah, he put that, that was placed on an object aggregate. So,
So
it just looks like it's there.
yeah.
Okay, this is good.
All right,
Sorry
continue.
for a little confusion there. So I still have 2 cards, if you allow me.
And I have all my cards. I don't even know what my cards are.
That's all.
Have you already played, Jay?
No, I haven't played a hand yet.
Don't worry, we're gonna go another.
happened?
round. We're gonna do.
What
one
happened,
card.
Jay?
Tim skipped me.
I also draw at the beginning.
Don't worry, we're gonna go one card at a time next time.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so,
have process and I put under a current
okay.
it's a class.
Plausible.
It's not approved.
I don't know.
You left, man. You left the room. You can't go to the bathroom in the middle of a vote.
I haven't finished because this has been plain and this has been
Uh-huh.
evident to everybody. But now I have a number of grams.
A number of grams. The card is a number of grams.
Ooh.
Oof. A number of grams.
It's a class, by the way. It's not an
The
instance
class,
because
a
it's
number of
wide.
grams.
A number
So
of
it's a
grams.
number.
Perhaps 24.
So,
But is it a number or?
It's a number of grams.
Okay. So I
A
would
number
argue,
of grams?
Oh.
What?
I would
Like
argue
7 grams?
that a number of grams,
It's just some number of grams, like
some
variable
number, it
range.
happens to be attached to grams, and it is an immaterial entity.
It's an immaterial
so it is
entity.
under
We don't-
it's
oh, we
under continuant. Or well, I can play it
Does it have to
safe
be
and say it's under
BFO? Can we
continuant
argue
without
for
saying
some
immaterial
novel
entity.
interpretations?
Okay, so it is a continuant.
Uh-huh.
I play it safe.
So he is claiming that a number of grams is a continuant.
It's a subclass of continuant or it's a instance of continuant.
I think
It's
it's
a
a
subclass because
subclass.
everything white is a class.
Okay.
You need to define
I agree
why,
with you. I agree with you.
why is a collection of a certain amount of grams a universal?
Good, good,
Mhm.
good. Okay.
So if a collection of
Yeah.
whatever 24 point, however many grams in an ounce, don't ask me how I know that, equals, okay, an ounce is a universal. Okay, so you're substituting that definition for what that is an actual universal, but any arbitrary amount of grams cannot, by virtue of just that, be a universal.
So you're making some
I would say it's more like a data property with a range and a domain.
So Z Perry would say
But
that
it's a
you
class,
can
it's a
define
class.
weights very illogically. And then it's basically the trouble you've got is if it's any grams, is you can slice up the world into grams in any sort of way. And let's assume the grams are disjoint just for ease, they don't suppose they have to be. And you pick it, let's say it's any number 3, so it's these three. So it's a very big class, isn't it?
No,
Mhm.
and you can understand actually, we just have this
Nothing
card.
wrong with that.
Huh?
Nothing wrong with it being a big class.
Yeah, of course, it can be big or small, we don't care about that. It doesn't, it needs at least one instance, of course, to exist.
Mhm.
Even the Aristotelian what was that?
Are you arguing for?
Okay, so we have this class, or at least this term, it is
Z
a
Perry's
number
gonna
of
really
grams. It
take
can be ambiguous,
She
right?
shows
It can
that
be
you have
like you have many grams.
mass,
Let's say
weight,
there is
can be
gram 1
described
and gram 2 and gram 3, and they are located
And then-
somewhere, and they are born by
Z
different
Perry, yeah,
objects,
and then-
and I take just the aggregate of them.
Mhm.
Okay.
Or it could be, we focus on the
thinking
term
something different.
number,
Okay.
and we say it's a number, and it happens to be a number of grams, so a quantity. And I say that you have a quantity of grams, so you weigh, you have a certain mass, and this mass can change over time. And my argument here is that this quantity, the number of grams, since it can change over time, is a continuant, because this is the only definition that we need and condition for a continuant. It exists through time, it can change, or can be stable.
Is it a real number
Compared
or
to
an
a
integer?
current. Huh?
Is it a real number or an integer? I
In this
assume-
case, is an integer perfect with just
That's
zeros.
what I thought, integer. yeah.
Yes.
So shall we vote?
No.
What are we voting on?
Integer.
But it's a continuant?
Yeah, it's too high up.
Are we voting on it?
Yeah,
being-
but
are
yeah,
we
It's
voting
too
on it-
high up.
What is not?
Are we voting on it being a continuant? Is that right? We're
It's-
voting on
That's
it.
a false vote.
Weight of.
I mean, this is
I
where
mean,
he placed it. He said this is as high as it should go right now.
that's not true. I mean, it doesn't fit there. I mean, it's a measurement of units, right?
Yeah,
And
but
it's generic.
we don't have GDCs yet.
Well, then he has to wait.
No, we
Well,
don't.
so I think all he has to do is argue that it would be a continuant.
So,
But
Oh, well,
that means
Then it
that,
defeats the whole game.
then that would mean that you should be able to get out on your very first hand because you
On
can say
everything, yep.
everything's in a current or a continuant and just be done with it. Like that doesn't seem like a plausible way to play the game.
Nope.
That's how we've been playing it though.
yes.
No, people are
Yeah.
waiting for for the occurrence and the process side to come in.
Also on the occurrence in the process, but those those haven't been placed until recently.
Sure, but I mean, if that's the case, then this game should be like like
gonna work.
when I break a cue ball, I just side
All right,
out.
well, so I vote against him then. Let's see.
Well, why? So the claim. Hold on. The claim is we should, like, methodologically, as a matter of gameplay, we shouldn't allow you to place a class down like just under continuant. You should wait until the additional hierarchy is there.
Because everything's a
But
continued
the concern is-
or a concurrent.
The claim is that the game would be over. We just laid our cards down, and yet we've been playing this for 2 hours. So I'm not moved.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's because not everybody was playing it that way.
Got a current.
If Tim didn't do that, he would have
kinda
just
mean-
said everything's a continuant or a current.
But the kind of
Yeah.
meat here, is that you can't, right? Because you still have to defend your choices once you start
Exactly.
building
You
up
have
the
a huge
structure.
burden.
And so, as you start laying down more, you have to defend more, and that's kind of what we've been doing. Like,
Yeah.
this is why people have gotten into tizzies about, like, they lay down a card between two other cards, and now they end up defending something they may not have intended to be defending to begin with.
Yes. So there is an inheritance of the previous
Yeah,
game.
kind of a
the previous
subtle-
model.
It's a
Inherit-
subtlety that lengthens the game.
Yeah.
I didn't see this coming, so I was quite surprised when it emerged, but
This
it's
is
really cool.
Because I had the same idea of
Yeah.
playing rigidly. So we're playing with the rules right now that we have established at the beginning.
Mhm.
So we can put in things, as the rule says, between two classes, and then we have to argue both for the super
Yeah.
classes and the subclasses.
So let's
We can play rigid mode another time,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course, and you can say it's better.
let's vote. This is your last card, yeah?
This is my last.
So,
card.
okay, here's the vote. So we are voting on whether a number of grains is a continuant or not. Or grams, I'm sorry. If it is, and the vote goes that way, just FYI, this round is over. Federico
Haven't
wins.
even gone yet.
We can play
Don't worry, we're gonna play another round, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do one placement at a time, so we can go around the room faster.
How is
No, it should make a whole success.
Okay, so how many say
I have
yeah?
a question first?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I want to say something's a data property, does that also have to be represented ontologically as either a continuant, or does it have to be a continuant to be a data property?
So
And
let's say you have
CCO,
data
isn't
property.
it?
Let's say you have that property as a class in your hand,
Mhm.
okay? Now you can decide, when you have a class, you have 4 dimensions, so you can put it like as a sibling of other classes, existing classes, above a class or below a class. But it must be attached to some class that is already on the table.
Yeah,
Let's
but
say-
to his question, so, is a data property a
What?
continuant?
We need to do the data ontology first.
We need to do the data
Already
ontology.
a data property,
I'm sure that's true, but.
yeah, as in protege.
Well, I think what Jay is pointing to is there's like an underlying structure behind the scenes on the implementations of these ontologies, like the web ontology language, the XSD stuff. And Jay is pointing out, like, if we were to represent aspects of that in the ontology, there's a data type property, the sort of thing that would fall under continuant.
This is a question for me, okay.
I mean, I think it's just a question in general.
If it
It's a good
changes
question.
through time, and we are not saying if it is immaterial, material artifact or not.
Because I know sometimes they are, right? Sometimes you see in ontologies where you'll have an IRI and it's represented in the class structure, and then it's duplicated over as a property, right? That happens. I know people do that. What I'm saying is that a universal?
No.
Okay, so if that's not a universal, I'm going to argue that this isn't a continuant at all. And that what this really is, it's not in the current either.
It must be a universal because we are the card for it. I cannot.
Why?
The card
Yeah.
because Greta would be very displeased.
I think there.
I would say it's a data property.
So
I know
let's,
you wanted
let's,
to burn also the space card, but.
so let's go ahead and vote. So you've heard some sides, you've heard some reasons to think one way or the other. So, okay, is a number of grams a subclass of continuant? Yes or no? Yes? Who says yes?
Yes.
1, 2, 3. Is that a no?
I don't want.
1, 2.
Everyone else have a go.
And who said, anybody say yes over here?
I'm down, thumbs down.
Thumbs down. Okay, who says no? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No.
The no's and the 7 no's have it. So please return. Please take your card back, sir. You guys really, just FYI, you guys seem to have a hard time understanding. I said, how many say yes? And then I heard like 2 no's. Wait, your turn. Oh, Elena. And okay, just come and run the deck.
That's what I'm saying. She's been plotting.
You've been waiting, and watching all this? Okay, just duplicate. She laid down duplicate. A chihuahua, class chihuahua. Under material entity. So Elena's placed the class chihuahua under material entity.
And then I have bark. That
Bark.
I would say it's a disposition.
The class bark, Elena is laying under disposition, which we don't have, but you could go with realizable entity.
Yeah.
So a bark, the bark
Dog's
is
bark?
realizable entity. Cool.
And then I have celestial body.
Oh, I object.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? No one's gonna object.
I think it's just a misunderstanding of, it's not a verb, it's the noun bark, right?
A bark?
A bark, yes.
But you can count even
Is
processes.
it bark on tree or is it bark from a dog?
Wouldn't be a reliable entity anyway.
Mm,
Would be barking. Right?
Dogs now.
yeah, Elena just had dogs in the
But
brain.
you can still play it as a material entity.
So
Yeah, you could still just, well,
tree bark.
can you? Or were you just convinced
I
that you were
don't know.
mistaken? Or you could defend yourself and say, listen, bark is in fact a disposition, you
If-
fools.
For me, it's a verb. It's this one.
Oh,
I think it's.
Since it is a
It's not-
a linguistic
it's a-
entity, so it is a linguistic entity, is a verb.
Yeah, but dogs can bark. It's a disposition.
So it's a
But
process.
It's a class though, it's a white card, so it's a class.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a
It's
class.
a white card.
Yeah.
I think it's a disposition that a dog.
I think Elaine, I think you're trying to defend the position that, I think you're trying to defend the position that dogs have a disposition to bark. Like bark is a sort of disposition that they have.
So it's a white card.
Well, I mean, that you could have that as a white card, it'd be a class. It'd just be the class of dispositions that dogs tend to bark. Chihuahuas have the disposition, other dogs have the disposition.
They have all different types of barks. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, so bark.
Yeah, like a fearful bark.
Mhm.
If I was going to
happy bark.
verify the verb, I'd
Then it's
verify with the
barking.
noun
You
barking.
have to be adjourned, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, but then it's the same, so it's just it's a linguistic maneuver.
That's what I'm saying, it's a
Same thing.
semantic, it's just whatever, take
No, I
noun or
think
verb.
there's a semantics with a touch, like meaning of touching.
If it's a verb, then it's a
Mhm.
realizable.
The disposition that the dog has for the act of barking. which
Something
is
like that. Yeah,
process
like
of
barkability,
barkability, yes.
barkability.
I wouldn't barkability be a realized one.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like if you were characterizing bark as a disposition, it'd be something like if you were to follow the patterns of other Latin.
You could say, you could probably say the quality of the dog.
Fragility, it'd have ility on it, barkility.
You could put it under quality possibly too.
Argumentability wouldn't be.
No, not
Bark-
barkability.
Barkability, which is not a word in English, by the way, just for the Italians in the room, it's not an English word.
Maybe it's not- yeah.
Disposition.
Maybe I
tree
read
mark
the
is a material.
So the material- So if you have changed, then you've conceded, and so your turn is over.
Yeah, exactly, you can't.
Yeah,
Ah,
after you play it,
Okay, so I have to keep my position.
strategically, we should, if you're strategically, we should vote if, because you might
Okay,
win.
then let's vote.
Okay, so the claim is bark. Is that a subclass of realizable entity? All in favor?
Workability or bar?
You pick your
Okay,
poison.
yes. Okay.
Pick your poison.
Yes.
One, I assume you, 2, 3, 4. Anybody online?
Yes.
Barkability.
Yes, so 5. We have 5 in favor. And who says, we have 5 in favor. Who says no? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, the noes have it.
I will keep my bar.
That was a good shot though. That was good. That was a good shot.
Yeah.
That was exciting. Some of you guys get heated.
Yeah, that's the problem, because we need to make it like
Disincentivize.
disincentivize.
Yeah.
Online people's turn yet? Jeez.
I know, right? We got 40 more minutes. All right, let's do it. Josh, Big Josh, Big J Bill, George Clooney,
Big dog.
Big Dog.
Okay.
Okay, everyone focus.
Let's focus. He might slide something by you.
Doubling up out of the way.
Okay.
put quality on quality. Okay. Print,
Oh,
so
shit.
I realized,
That's a hard one.
well, I didn't want to put it under, because so it is a class,
Yeah.
not an instance, so I didn't want to put it under process.
Damn, that's a hard one.
So I wanted to put it under an artifact.
Okay,
Print something.
okay.
What?
That's
Wait,
the print, print under
It's
artifact.
not to print, it's a print.
Like,
So a
Uh-huh.
prints,
Oh, like a print,
a
like,
prints. 'cause
and
it's
you have
not-
the class print and the instances of it are prints.
Yeah,
like my Jackson Pollock print.
Print,
it's
yeah,
an artifact.
like a Jackson
Okay,
Pollock
sure.
print, like, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Cool.
I'm digging it. Anybody want to object or is that?
No, I think everybody's
I'm not a
good.
big.
Okay, so I got this statue
Yeah,
of a some cats. I'm gonna put that under artifact.
Someone
as
likes
well.
cats, yeah.
somebody loves cats.
Okay, we're cool with that.
Less dogs and barking.
Nice. And then let's see, we got, where's material entity over here? I'm gonna put object under material entity.
Object under material entity, all right.
Consult the graph.
What is object, how does object stand in relation to object aggregate?
Oh, I mean, this is just how the cards are.
They're
laid out.
sibling
I'm-
classes,
They're
I'm
right?
just
siblings,
putting it under
Okay.
material entity.
Objects are parts or members of object aggregate.
Okay, then I have, well, hold on, I'm gonna, maybe hold on to that one. Okay,
Wait, sorry, what did you just say?
Yeah, wait, what did you just say?
I'd say
What did you just
Objects are part
Put
of
object
they're
Object
members of
entity.
object
Okay.
aggregate.
So they would be,
Not typing though, this is the hierarchy. There's just a logical relationship between.
okay,
All of these are yours.
I'm gonna talk through this one because I don't really know.
Mortal?
Mortal.
Oh, wow,
Because-
you got a rough hand. The class is the class mortal.
So
all men are mortal.
it would be nice to put it as a quality, having the capacity of dying. But
I don't have it.
well, I would like to put it blankly under. We don't have it. We don't have it, but I would,
You
Like-
only have to defend as high up as you have to go.
cool, I'm gonna put it under continuous.
Under continuous. So mortal goes under continuant.
No, I think you could put it either under quality or realizable entity.
That,
Well,
yeah.
but
Is it a noun or an
No,
adjective?
Well, I
it
mean,
can't be a
no, you
subclass.
still,
Mortal is a quality, I wouldn't put it as a subclass of quality.
well, I mean, if it is a if the class, if the instances of mortal, if the instances of mortal are qualities,
Right,
then the class mortal should go under that'd be a subclass of class.
okay,
quality.
yeah, I understand that.
But unfortunately, you've placed it under
Continuous.
Card played is a card played.
Well, I was.
Card laid is a card
Card
played.
laid is card
That is
played.
the motto of
But
this.
I do.
But you can't, now you
Can
have, do you concede? the
No,
point?
no, I don't concede, man.
Then
No.
shall we vote?
Is there,
Grandstand.
is there a filibuster here? Can I just talk?
That's
until
what I was
we-
I feel like
yeah.
people have been trying to do that this whole time. But we shall vote unless you
So
can.
we're voting that it's not, that's continuing is not specific enough, right?
That's right. So mortal was placed under continuant.
I don't see, but the thing is, like, I feel as though that it's like.
Feelings don't care about
And
arguments.
see, like, I'll just put it out there, like in football, right? They have the call on the field
Mhm.
and then they review the footage, and the footage has to be enough to overturn on the play.
Bro,
Yeah, and you're out of bounds by like 3 feet on this.
The question here has to be enough to
Not close.
overturn the call on the field, and the call on the field is continuing and specific enough. I don't think is telling me that I'm categorically wrong. It's just saying that I'm not specific enough, and into what capacity that is. I feel like.
Yeah, but you have to use what's on the board, right? So
Right,
quality wasn't on the board.
I said, you need to be a little bit more
You're-
specific.
you're
when you say it's
making-
not specific enough.
I
Quality wasn't on the board, you'd be fine, but quality's on the board.
No, but the issue is that a call on the field was made by a designated entity who has
Me.
the authority to do so. You are an arbitrary member placing this card, so.
I don't.
I feel like this
I
matter.
don't agree with
I feel like this-
arbitrary.
I feel like this metaphor has gone long enough. Okay, so shall we leave as is? Mortal
No, get it
subclass.
out of there.
We're gonna vote. We're voting now. Mortal subclass of continuant, or should it be more specific? So if you think yes to under continuant, raise your hand. Not even you, Josh.
Oh, wait, sorry.
And if you say no, raise your hand. Jay's given 2.
Whoa.
Okay, looks like you're outvoted.
Incredible.
Take it back.
I didn't expect that.
Bunch of
Okay.
Tammany Hall.
One thing of rules, so what happened?
It's better need to sit the fuck down.
Oh,
This
oh.
goes on
I didn't even
the
get to
dark
skip
kids
it,
page.
Who wants to vote on whether Fetish should sit down or not? Sit down.
No, it's really-
It's not a process, this is a quality of life.
Hold on, Rob's playing. Robert's playing. What we got?
We haven't even had a turn yet.
No, we're trying to get to Jay. Jay's been sitting here just seething.
I don't even know what my cards are.
I know you don't. It's great.
So why did that happen?
No.
Oh yeah, you gotta draw a card.
Go ahead.
Fetish, did you draw a card?
So one thing on the rules, so what just happened with Josh that we voted all against? It's not explicit in the rules, but it is interesting and we'll make it explicit. And whenever
That would be nice.
whenever you add a class under some other class, there are,
You have to say what you're doing.
you have to say what you're doing.
But we have to show
When
first.
I'm not speaking.
By the way, do you guys see how quick Elena and I were to do our turns?
I know you haven't watched it.
Yeah, do you guys think that's
Paragon. Paragon. Over here, Fetish talking over everybody while Rob's trying to play.
Okay, realizable entity, kosher, cool.
Kosher, cool.
I'm just doubling up.
Double it up.
Double it up for a buck. Oh, a current.
Okay.
Current.
Double it up for a buck.
Great.
Role is a realizable entity.
Sounds right.
Yes. Now comes the interesting.
Now comes the interesting part.
This picture of a galaxy of some sort.
Got a picture of a galaxy.
Nebulae is an instance of nebula.
Of instance of nebula.
Okay.
It's alligator.
Clearly a fish.
A fish. They're joking. Okay, continue.
Do we still have Relic on here?
Nah, man.
I'll save that one. That was a risky one. I'll say I'll say an artwork is a type of artifact.
Okay. Artwork is
Non-living
a
artifact though.
Artwork is a subclass of
Non-living
artifact, of non-living
Yeah,
artifact.
you can have living artworks.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I don't honor the non-living part.
You have
Yeah, you have
to.
to.
That's the game,
It's a
man.
game.
What is an example of a non?
Let's go.
What is an example of a non-living artwork?
Feel like a ballet.
A ballet,
Performative
a
art.
performative art.
Anyway,
My daughter.
Art, what do you want? Like sculpture?
Like
Paintings?
living flowers arranged in a way so that they are like
Mhm.
art, but they're not, they're living still.
There is definitely
Fungal
living
forms
artwork.
on the
I
ground. They
object
form those
to
little
his
circles.
class
Yeah,
joining.
Too late, bro. That
Well,
that
Yeah,
vote.
I don't think it fits there.
Okay, Jay thinks not either. Okay, how many people think artwork is a properly placed subclass of non-living artifact? Raise your hand. Yes. Raise your hand. No.
But for the sake of argument, is it
Oh.
fact? Just get rid of the non-living part.
You
can't.
I think
Yes, now, it's already on the board. You guys agreed for
For
it.
the sake of
I
argument-
disagreed with that. Y'all agreed, and you have to live with that now.
That's,
Jay is a little bitter. Jay is a little bitter here today.
it might be a little bitter, but he just said, whatever the case may be, he voted against that class, and y'all have to live with it.
But is artwork not an artifact, just like in general?
We don't have time for this.
Regina?
Chris is up.
It's me.
It is. We made it. We almost made it to Jay.
Almost. Tim probably has another skip card.
Yeah, hold on. I haven't wiped the board card, so before I'm done, you know that I'm using that.
Okay. What do we got?
Oh, boy.
Finally.
Okay, so Relic was placed as a role.
Where are we?
Oh,
This is a Rubina is a cat.
He's placed an instance of a cat under cat.
Wait, okay. Well, do we vote on Relic as a rule?
Yeah.
Then nobody's
Yeah,
objecting.
no,
Does
I
anybody?
object.
Okay, Jisoo is objecting to Relic being a role.
I thought we agreed last
Huh?
time.
I think they just predicted that it was a material entity.
Explain how relic is a role.
Entity there, it's like combined in a weirdly weird
Mhm.
way. So it can be custom belief and object of someone.
Context which we make
It's gonna
the
be a
role.
no, isn't it?
I
How
was,
is relic a role?
why is a relic a role? Who wants to defend it? Who wants to defend a relic as a role? So we have both sides.
Just a game question.
Yeah.
So I think words have got multiple senses. So are we voting on which sense we use?
No, the definition, always.
What definition?
Which
Here.
There's relic is not, relic is not
No,
defined in there.
Can we pick and choose
Relic's
the
not
sense?
defined in there.
So if you're saying no,
No,
you're
but
saying
role
the sense
is.
doesn't exist, or if you say no, are you saying, I don't like this sense, I want the other sense? Because I think the
No.
second thing is probably, you can always say no.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not that I'm worried about this particular instance, but I'm just thinking in general for
I
games.
think the person who
Okay.
introduces the card can define it or not,
No,
but
no,
it's
no, that
on
shouldn't
up
be
to
the
the
case.
person.
That shouldn't be, we should use the main definition.
What is the main?
The first and second definition of the
I
dictionary.
know. So,
Why?
why would we be doing
But
ontology?
your
Once they
first,
get all the
but
definitions.
but
out
also
of
your
there?
first definition of
That's-
dictionary would seem to
Talking about,
be of a
you
role.
talking about joint
We
ontology?
have to base our concept on something.
Role, a realizable entity, that one exists because the bear is in some special physical, social, institutional set of circumstances in which the bear does not have to be, and two, is not such that if this realizable entity ceases to exist, then the physical makeup of the bear is thereby changed, or role is thus
I
always
think
optional.
that's not the argument, as I understand. The argument is there's another sense of relic, which does.
If relic satisfies those conditions, then you can.
But only one sense of it. I think your argument is there's another sense that doesn't, yes?
No, I'm just saying that it's not. It's either, it's not role at all, that's what I'm saying.
Not?
It's not, it's, so, okay, so. We can give a role to an object and then they will turn into a relic, but relic and then role can be distinguished. The relic can play a role of being secret and then there's, let's say, be a symbol.
I
or
agree,
something
I
like
agree,
that,
but I say being a relic is a role as well, yeah? I'm saying being a relic is a
But
role.
this is just relic, not being a relic.
Okay, so in order to, okay, so I would say this is not being a cat, this is just a cat. This is not being a box, it's a box, and I say box and being a box is the same thing.
Because in that case, it's class of cat or class of box.
I think class of relics.
We don't have a, consensus on what. relic is.
Okay, so I mean,
So if it's,
let me be, Italian for a while, so I went down to Sicily, and in Sicily they had this massive, great big box full of relics, yeah? And it previously they've been in all sorts of places, and I think some of them were fakes. Who knows where they'll be? So they said a box, and they said, "This is a box of relics," and put it down. Now I think that the actual object persisted for longer than it was a relic. So there was a certain time. I mean, they had
Before it was a relic.
there was a time that with those objects where it wasn't. So I think that's my intuition. I think that was. Maybe Jack Ballmer's intuition about what a relic is. I can come and I can you go to Sicily, I can tell you where to go, yeah? And it's a nice place.
Next year, Foy's in Sicily 2025.
That's true, yeah.
No, I'm running one of the Java workshops.
So, and they put the box,
Actually,
in. So
all of
I
them.
would think that's a box. For me, that would be a box of relics. So I understand all of the things you're saying, and I think there are lots of ways of using every word, but I would say that's why I was asking about the sense. And for me, the sense of relic, the obvious sense is that because I went to Sicily and I saw the relics, that there's this box of things, there's a piece of wood in there, it's the true cross. There's a skeleton of a hand, Francis Assisi's hand or something. There's a nose, Teresa Villa's nose, and there's a piece of cloth that is used to wipe.
He's right. The designation of designating the things in the box as relics is optional. The role it does not adhere in the physical properties of those objects, as we're saying they're relics.
but we're
right?
talking about, some physical things that are called relics. Even though, so like,
And they weren't always called relics, yeah?
yeah, but they're not.
And
They're
like the President of the
physical
United
objects.
States, yeah? Trump was called the President of the United States, he isn't at the moment, maybe.
You still call the president when you're a president.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear what you're
Let-
saying, but
Let me say, so this ambiguity comes up regularly when we're talking about roles. So we have a strategy for addressing it. So if you're talking about like a student and they have a student role. Often we'll talk about the student, we'll use the word student, and then what is it's defined in terms of the role. So we say something like a student is a person who bears a student role. A relic is a material entity that bears a relic role. Now that is only, I'm only saying this is like a structural point. Everything Chris said is
So the piece of
absolutely
wood
correct about
bears the
sense,
relic
right?
role. Yeah, that's what I would say. This,
Like
in
half
fact, in
of
one place they dried people. So this dried hand with all of the flesh and skin still there, which was used to be part of some saint. Yeah.
Let me just make a quick suggestion that makes everyone happy. You create a relic role by combining these two.
We're allowed to do that, okay.
You are allowed,
Yeah.
you're allowed to combine.
But a relic doesn't always have to be a material.
Say it again.
A relic doesn't have to be a material entity. I think Chris is on to something here. Like,
Yeah.
the one thing with role also is that something, a continuant can bear a role and it doesn't affect the continuant, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, if there was a relic from 2,000 years ago that was used in martial arts, and we said, "Oh, it's a relic," and then all of a sudden, we started using that martial arts weapon again, and no longer it was a relic from the past; it was something we're using in the present. We're not hindering it or changing it at all because it was a role that thing took on, whether it's a type of katana or something. But if we have a 2,000-year-old katana and we're like, wow, look at that relic, and then somebody goes and forges an identical katana to it, we're not going to call that a relic anymore, although it's the same thing because it's a role that had. And so language can be relics, right? You can have dead languages, and then sometimes they become undead and they're no longer relics.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that
I think everything he said is compatible with what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, Chris.
But I think, but it's interesting. I'm pretty sure we could find an example of and I'm arguing against myself here, but an example of the use of relic for something that doesn't end up being a contingent. We could have a relic. I mean, you could, so in the current, you can have a process. This, Morris dancing in the UK could be a relic of a ancient ritual or something. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's true. That would be.
Was mentioned.
Yeah.
So, but I'll stop there.
Yeah.
Okay, can we
I'll
move
just
on?
point out just to highlight. So what Chris is, I think it's plausible to say Chris's intention was to combine role and relic classes. So we already had role on the table, and so Chris's claim is that what he's saying is there's a relic role. And so you combine those classes.
Yeah.
And so he's not just saying it's relic on its own, it's relic role.
Yeah.
So he's combining.
That works. That's nice because that works with the idea that they could be.
Yeah.
Oh no, it doesn't work, but they could be. Okay.
Well, it might not capture some of the.
Can I ask for advice from the man in charge? So I've got a drama dump. So what you changed the rules about
I have. You can swap
Have you
cards.
drawn the card at the beginning of your turn?
Oh yeah.
You draw a
Oh,
card.
no, I should do.
You may get to skip your turn.
Okay, so I'll do
He's
this.
got a dog.
I've got a dog. I'll put a dog down here somewhere.
Lots of dogs.
Another dog.
They should just have. Yeah. There's another now.
What I
Maybe
do with my,
different.
in fact, maybe I should think this when I do my drama dump.
That's
because
true.
I've got to
That's
have two
true.
cards.
That's true.
So what should I do? I got any number of cards. So who should I pick? What would be the nastiest person?
Have you ever read Ridley Walker? The book Ridley Walker?
Yeah.
Okay. You know how in Ridley Walker, so Ridley Walker is basically a book about it takes place in London, and there was a nuclear bomb that goes off in London, killed everybody in the world. And so language and everything are relics of the past. So their god is called Yusa. Yusa is their god because Yusa, and they have all these pictures of Yusa flying in sky and everything. And what it is it's USA. So USA has now become a relic of the past. And these ideas and concepts that we have now of like flying in planes and all these things in Ridley Walker are relics of the past because the people can't read anymore. So even books and everything that's in written language are relics of the past and are not utilized. And then if somebody came along and actually could read English, they would no longer be relics to them.
Right. That is a good example. So Chris, my suggestion, so Chris has a drama swap.
Yeah,
So he should swap, he can swap cards. I would pick I would pick swapping from Jay's deck because he has more
Okay,
cards than anybody else because he's not.
Hey, I mean, pick cards.
So you get to pick from his cards and you get to swap.
Oh, plagiarism. Okay.
I've been very active in this
I
game.
know you
I'm not
have.
asleep
I
yet.
can swap as many as I like, yeah?
Yes, let's
Okay.
see, yeah. As many as you have that you can swap.
We got 2 plagiarisms.
You've got 2 plagiarisms.
Okay, so, but if I give him a drama dump, he can do the same thing, yeah?
Can.
Okay, so I'll put, okay, so there's one. And what about, shall I give him a deserve better? It's the same thing, yeah?
Yeah, I deserve better.
Yeah. Now, I hope I know what this is. Okay.
Oh wait, but instead of swapping, you pull from the deck.
Oh, so I do, oh, okay, so,
Replace your cards from the deck.
okay, so what am I, shit, what have I done? I took,
So you'll put
put that
whatever,
back,
yeah,
yeah, okay.
and then you'll just take.
I put this down here, and I take from here, okay,
Okay.
cool, okay. Oh, look at that.
Coordinates, oh my gosh.
Coordinates.
Coordinates, that'll be fun.
I reckon
So,
we can do this.
Chris just drew coordinates as a class.
Let's do object aggregates, they're okay. Put this guy here.
Dogs,
And then
okay,
you
Chris
gotta
is
use
down
the
to 1
objective
card
of-
and it's coordinates.
Oh, we didn't agree on
We
that.
haven't put it.
So it's
Oh, wait, no,
basically-
it's under.
Pretty easy.
Mm-mm-mm.
So I think, I'm trying to
How is
continue,
that?
okay, so but it's not
It's
between
nothing,
these two.
no, can you?
So I should put it here like this, yeah? I personally think, do I think about it? Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's, I personally believe, and I'll make a rational argument, that coordinates are kind of space.
Okay, Chris is claiming that coordinates is a subclass of space.
I think coordinates designate space.
If
or
it's like,
parts of
if
space.
we're doing space as spatial
So you-
region,
So the, sorry?
if we're doing space as spatial region,
Need the restroom while you guys
then
are.
I could see an argument for coordinates being a type of spatial region.
Yeah, so. you
Is that
just-
where he's putting it? Spatial region?
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
who's this guy? I like him.
Well, I'm just blunt.
So I disagree for the reason that.
Well, because coordinates are going to be part of like if you look at like
boundaries.
things like coordinate systems are one-dimensional spatial regions. So
Yeah.
like a coordinate would be a one-dimensional spatial region.
What's a GDC?
So-
Direct dependent continuance, something like information.
The word is just space. And that was just how it was left, which
But we agreed this, yeah. See, I would have thought space was just, I wouldn't put it under that, then no.
It didn't have a region, wouldn't have any,
Yeah, I wanted it to be floating in its own abyss and not attached because I actually don't think space is a continuant.
yeah,
I think
Can you prove that?
I think that in our ontological view of the universe, we define everything but space.
What about time?
I'd say it's a 3-dimensional spatial region, but then again, sorry, you were objecting to something.
But spatial region in CCO would actually fall under immaterial entity. So
yeah, space was.
so that's where it should go.
I would have said I would have said you should do that.
Oh, wait,
And then it would have some type of relationship with
Try to argue
with
for
space
that.
time.
We all voted against me.
Okay, that's true. What you could win.
I think it's space.
So what do we land?
I
It's
mean-
coordinates, do we argue about coordinates and space?
What, G-Com's going
No,
to.
my argument is that coordinates are tools that we invented to represent space and to
Mhm.
make sure that we move around.
But is
space.
there a okay, so I can half agree with you, and I think this happens every time, but would you agree that if I give you a particular coordinate, and in fact, it can be 2 or 3, it could be any of these, I give you a coordinate 0, the Greenwich Meridian, say, as a coordinate, or something like that. It could be a name, but it represents a space, there's a one-to-one thing. So we're arguing about whether it's a representation or the represented, surely.
They made it a process, like to coordinate.
I don't think it's a tool. I mean,
You don't think it's an abstraction, a representation of something?
But okay, so the thing the thing I'd worry about what you were doing as a maneuver, if we're doing this as a genuine exercise and we're looking at data, is that choosing to identify as the representation rather than the represented is a maneuver that just mucks up the process, because then you've got to introduce the represented to be able to do any work. So in general, say there would be a preference for the represented.
Unless you're wrong about the representation, in which case it's very good to have a difference between what's represented and what you're
I
representing.
think, okay, so you're absolutely right, but I think if you do that, okay, there may be cases when you genuinely know that, and then I think there's another issue, which if you're Lewisian, it's something in a possible world, blah, 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 blah. So I think I give you the issue about possibility, but I think that and it's actually linked into my paper, my very good paper.
Who in the room said that it's a tool? The coordinate's a tool.
I did.
Because what I would say is it sounds like your worldview would mean that science and mathematics are created, not discovered, right? And I would say that all science has existed and all mathematics has existed. It's just when Einstein discovered it or when somebody else discovered it. You just discover it. You don't create it. So that coordinate out there in the middle of space that we're going to try to send a satellite to, that's not something we created. It's some place that we discovered based upon math.
I could have added different systems of coordinate to represent the same space, right?
And I definitely not like this, So.
Yeah, I mean, it can be represented differently. That's totally different.
I think that's what he meant by tool.
So can I just come back to what you say? Because I actually think it's a really practical importance. So if you're doing this particular project, if you're unsure, I think you should go with the representation. I can see the maneuver. We do it all the time. In fact, we have a representation ontology as well as a represented. I can't remember why we did it. And partly it was because you weren't sure. It was in the early stages. But I think if you really want the thing to work, and the people using it actually believe it's representing something, your aim should be to use the represented, not the representation. So not your go-to.
I don't know. I think on different use cases, that's for sure the right way to go, especially if you're trying to like move out quickly. But there's plenty of use cases we encounter where what we're looking for is justification
On an operational system.
Yes. Where we're looking for actual justification, and what we want to be able to do is model enough of the phenomena to run checks through and sparkling against what. But we need some flexibility between the representation or multiple representations.
So let me go with that. Give me a specific example, because I'd say in the operational system, you don't be running the justification. If you're doing an intelligence type thing, maybe, but in a normal operational system like accounting or ERP.
I'm thinking more
I'm trying to have a drone. If I'm trying to tell a drone, right, the 9 different things it's looking for at a border crossing at the southern border of the United States, right? I want to be careful how much I'm representing, because in my opinion, every single independent continuant has to have basically has to have an act and a process, and probably has to have a bearing artifact, right? And so if I over represent, it's going to be too much for the drone to handle. So I have to be careful that I point it in a way that is representing the whole world, but the slice that it only needs. And so I need to be careful, because I can scope this enormously, and I want to. And that's our goal, I think, is that we represent everything, but we're bound by limitations of compute process and everything else. We have to be really careful.
I'm not objecting to that.
There's one more thing I think that comes in. It's a BFO specific problem, because you've got information artifacts. If you go the possible worlds route, however which way, and I actually think DOLCE does, for example, if you go down that route, you don't need to get information artifact to do all the work. So you don't need to distinguish. So I think the reason that you want it to be a representation is because you could be representing wrong. But if your representation can be the number of things you possibly represent,
I think you're just shifting around the word representation. These models are going to be just as complex. Just because you can't introduce a bunch of possibilities and then say they're not representations.
No. You're not. Okay, so the model should be roughly the same. The difference is that in BFO, you're forced to make some of them things into information artifacts and some of the things in the real world. If you have possible worlds, they're all in the real world. So I'm saying you don't have a type distinction that you're going.
Is there possible worlds that are all in the real world?
the possible worlds are all actual.
There's actual worlds and a bunch of possible worlds.
Actual's
And
a
you
relative
still need,
thing.
you
Actual's
still
a
need,
relative thing.
so you still need relations between the actual world that's being investigated and the possibilities. And so that plays the
I
same
think
role
you
that's
assume
like
you know what
about-
the, okay, I
think
think
it
you're
plays the
assuming you
same
know what the
role.
actual world is, so we're digging down on that level.
Uh-huh.
But what I'm still saying is that
Even
I
if
think,
you do,
Sorry?
even if you do to simplify the model, you still have the same structural requirement, which is you have something in the actual world that it's putatively about something else. There's a relationship, and you're saying it's about possible worlds. I'm saying it's information
I'm
about
saying
the
no,
real world. So
I'm
it's
saying
structurally
about
the same.
there is a vagueness about which of a lot of possible objects it's about, which is a standard sort of
Mhm.
possible vagueness stuff. But what we're doing is I'm not forced to have a choice between the representation and the represented. I can just say the representation is vague, and it's a collection of things that are of the same type.
We can do that.
But aren't you limiting yourself to one paradigm? Like, so say I wanted to make an AI agent.
Those are things that don't exist.
There's
You
nothing
just said-
about BFO that requires that we go out into the full granularity like that. Like we can talk about, we have levels of granularity too. So
Okay, so just this, so I can't understand your argument for going for using the representation rather than the represented. I thought you were going to say, look,
I'm
we
saying
don't
use-
know
I
what the
don't-
represented
it's not
is.
one or the other. It's the full picture of having both. And sometimes you need the full picture. That's the argument.
Here,
So
I'll give you an example. I build an AI agent that uses ontologies, and I'm trying to have it play poker,
Uh-huh.
right? And it gets cards, it knows the table, it sees all the things, and it ends up getting an information content entity, right? It concretizes that it has a winning hand or a losing hand or a hand it doesn't know. It can get one of those three. And it's going to assert maybe an information bearing entity with how it plays. So it's going to lay down its cards, it's going to bet, it's going to fold, it's going to do all these things, and it can do multiple different things, and it's not dependent upon one thing. The problem is if you don't have an information content entity and then separate it with the information bearing artifact, you don't allow a system to gain multiple information content entities and decide to only make one information bearing artifact. Because if you bound information bearing artifacts and information content entities into the same, then they have to show all of them when they might not want to. Did that make sense?
A little.
Okay.
Maybe try it again.
Well, I'm just saying if you're really trying to get to a system that is able to be fully like what we envision AI in the future, right? Where we can give it parameters and it can make logical assertions and it can make real-time decisions on certain things, whether it's to dwell from a drone or whether it's to take action or whatever, it's going to get a lot of information content entities that come in. And whether or not they want to bear them as actually results or as artifacts is a decision process. If you only have one, so if you don't have information content entities, you only have information bearing artifacts, then you don't have that ability for nuance in the system to make choices and decisions. Or I'm wrong. I don't know.
I can agree.
So you're saying that it doesn't have a decision tree then, Jay?
No, I'm saying is it doesn't.
It can't reason to the right decision?
Human beings, if we're trying to create systems that can mimic human behavior in some situations because we need to automate it because there's no way for us to do cybersecurity stuff that's at the speed of the internet. The problem is that a lot of times the human concretizes a lot of thoughts, and we're only going to take action on a few of those thoughts. So we need to have this separation of the ICE and then the information bearing artifact, because we might not want to have information bearing artifacts for every single ICE that comes in.
And with that, should we vote?
So
So coordinates, the vote. So Chris has played coordinates as a subclass of space. Okay. And so how many in favor of coordinates as a subclass of space? Okay. Okay, one.
No. Down. Thumbs down.
Okay, how many say no? All right,
Nope.
have it.
I have to take it back.
Yes, sir. Okay, and now we are over to,
And I take, oh no, I don't think I'm gonna go.
now we're over to Tim. And with 4 minutes to go.
Oh, just go quick. So I can
Tim,
go.
it's gonna be quick. Okay, Tim, you have communicate, fiat point, and I deserve better, which is where you replace your cards with new cards from the deck and mix your old cards back in the deck.
Okay. Well, I mean, I do always deserve better, but you know, we'll get to that in a little bit. Where's the I get to wipe the board card? That was one of them, and building was one of them. And skip turn, that was the one I was going to use on Jay next. I'll go
turn on me.
I know, but I get 2, Jay. I'm very lucky today.
So I thought one of the other, yeah, I thought that was Obi's deck.
Yeah. So I'm going to put communicate under process.
Okay, cool. So communicate is going to go under process. All right. Any objections?
No.
Okay, and then you've got fiat point, which I might suggest just being placed under continuous.
Well, yeah, sure, that works for me. Just put it under continuant.
Yeah.
Nope.
What?
Nope.
Well, where else would it go?
Yeah.
It's an immaterial entity.
All right, I meant to say fiat boundary.
Whatever. So where we go.
Yeah.
Fiat bound.
Put it there. Okay.
Fiat boundary.
Where are you going to put it? Under immaterial entity?
You have I deserve better. Mix my old cards in with the deck and
Skip J.
you basically can play this. You can return this card to the deck and pull another card.
Wait, so what were my options again?
You,
Yeah, I
you can replace this card with a random card from the deck.
Yep.
Okay.
And then hit to draw.
And then we have
Oh, skip J?
No, no, skip me.
the card you've just drawn is furry.
Furry.
Furry. The class furry.
That's easy.
Okay.
On the board.
Quality. Quality.
There you go.
Hey, he's gonna
Hey. So by the way, that's Uno.
Is it a good
and this is his last card.
No, that was my last card, brother.
This is your last card.
Boom. That's right.
I didn't even get to go.
Sorry, Jay. That's just how the ontological ball bounces.
Oh, are there
Sometimes.
objections or is this it?
It's like equality.
Okay, wow, Jay.